Cowboy Bebop Boop Flop. Juicy Smolliet is the French actor who everybody loves and adores. Oh, that's right, he's guilty. And yeah, there's some Star Wars news. Welcome everybody to Midnight's Edge in the Morning. I'm Tom Connors. With me as always is the boss man Andre.
Greetings everyone. Welcome to Midnight's Edge. It's a beautiful Friday morning, at least it is in the US. Here's a beautiful evening in my end of the world, and yeah, I hope you're having a good time wherever you may be. And we have some great one more time, some great guests joining us today. To begin with the ladies first, welcome. Rrrr.
Hello, gentlemen. It's wonderful to be with you all on this fine Friday.
And it's wonderful to have you here. And we are also joined by Kamran Pasha. How's it going?
It's going great here. It's wonderful to see you, Andre, and Tom, and our lovely Rrrr, who always brings up the wonderful, intellectual, positive, feminine energy to this channel. So,
absolutely. And of course, we also have our lovely audience watching us. We have Stephanie Janicek is here. Olaf van S is here. Sander Hammerslag is here. Michael B, aka Shogun Gaming, is here, and he sent us a super sticker for 14 Danish krona. So thank you so much for that. We have Dash Attack is here. Super SJ2 is here. And we have Valiant Renegade is here. Valiant, hope everything is all right in the office. Joachim Stark is here, representing Sweden. Tina Bojan is here. I believe I saw Cultured Casino in here as well somewhere. And of course, Natasha is here, representing all the wrenches. So welcome everyone. We just got a new member in David Marsh. So welcome, David. And we have a couple of super chats that we're going to go through right away before we dig into the main topics of today, which is, of course, the justice that happened to Juicy Smolliet, you know, the very French actor who was also black and gay, and everything that goes with that. We will be talking about the recent casting announcement for Star Wars: The Acolyte and what's up with that. And then, of course, we have the very interesting thing that the trades actually run the stories that Cowboy Bebop is actively cancelled after 3 weeks in release. This generally doesn't happen. Generally, things that are cancelled,
not unless you're Pauly Shore, anyway. I mean,
yeah, exactly. There's quietly go away tend to be the order of the day. But in this case, they made a huge issue out of it, and we're going to discuss why. Before that, though, we have a couple of super chats. Darius Münchhausen sent us a $1.49 super sticker, so thank you so much for that. And then we have, let us see here. I just have to scroll down to the next one because we got everything. Yeah, we had David Marsh, who's joining us as a member. Welcome. And Martino Sulmoni sent us 50 Swiss franc. Thank you so much. Saying, Rrrr, Rrrr, Rrrr. And hopefully that's
he's revving up, or he likes one of the two.
Yeah, well, that actually did sound like revving up a little bit. And yeah, we also have Jason Gray, my fellow countryman, in the chat, and we have Mexican Iron Man, who says, "Assalamu alaikum, Habib brothers, Kamran, Tom, and Andre. Hail
you're
to
getting better with that.
And welcome all mobs and peeps in the chat. I'm in the virtual kitchen making rabbit chicken tacos. It's Taco Friday. Nice. Very, very nice. And then we have Eldrich Trustlord, who says for $5, Cowboy Bebop cancelled. Whiskey Indigo November, which of course is military code for win. Aaron Bennett says for $10, it seems that we have gotten a few W's over the last couple of weeks. That being said, the momentum cannot be let up. We cannot become complacent, with Bebop cancelled and the Star Wars resort floundering. Yeah, that Star Wars resort thing, that wasn't great news for them, was it? And Moldovan Alin says for 25 Romanian, I forgot the name of the currencies, but 25 Romanian. Hello all. Question for Kamran. When do you think we'll start to see movies with less SJW content? Also, thanks for your insights and for Midnight's Edge for hosting.
Well, we're going to talk about it in broader detail with some of the events we're going to talk about, but very quickly, I think the process has begun. I think Ghostbusters Afterlife is one of the most prominent examples, as well as Doom this year, of movies that did not have SJW programming. In fact, in many ways went against that narrative. There will still be this. It's a process, guys. These movies, I talk about movies. Movies take several years to develop. They take several years to produce and distribute. So even when there's a culture shift within the industry, which I believe is happening because I'm seeing it with my own interactions, it takes time for that culture shift to appear because a train has already been set in motion that's going to arrive at the station. So for the next year, you're probably going to still see some stuff you're not going to like, right? Because the train's got to arrive. They got to get the passengers off the train, get it off the track, and another train can arrive. And so I believe that you're going to start seeing better filmmaking in starting 2023 and 2024. It's going to require patience. And we're going to talk about some of the hiccups along the way of the trains, of the SJW trains that are still on the track. We're going to talk about that today.
Actually, let's begin with that real quick with a slightly different topic that I was reminded of here off the screen. Yesterday, we had the release of a new trailer, namely the trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now, if you all recall, Sonic the Hedgehog is absolutely a movie that's associated with a win, if you will, because originally, with the designs and everything, it was set to, I don't know about everything else, but visually, at the very least, it was set to become a disaster, because the visuals they had planned on were so bad that really nothing else would have mattered. And the backlash was immense. And to the filmmakers' credit, they went back and they changed the movie in response to the backlash prior to the movie's release. And the movie actually turned out really well. I would say it was like the last good movie before this whole pandemic thing started in the first place.
And it beat Birds of Prey. It beat Birds of Prey that weekend.
It did. That was, I had such a good time watching it. I've been looking forward to the sequel. And yesterday, we were treated to the trailer for Sonic 2, which featured the return of Dr. Robotnik, now looking closer to Dr. Robotnik, or Eggman, as I believe he is called in the games these days. Back in my Sega Mega Drive game days, he was just Robotnik, plus Tails and Knuckles. Did you all have the opportunity to watch this trailer yet?
I did. What's funny is, Andre, I don't even know how they haven't used this yet. There is a version of I Am the Walrus that Jim Carrey sang about 20 years ago. That's on George Martin's. George Martin did the producer of the Beatles. He did an album where mostly comedians and movie stars were singing songs of the Beatles. And Jim Carrey did I Am the Walrus. So if they don't use that in this movie, then I'm going to be pissed. But no, I love this trailer. It looked awesome. It's obviously a kid's movie, but hey, I mean, compared to the first film, this looks like 10 times more fun. This is the kind of movie I wish had come out when my kid was younger, because he loved Sonic, and I'm sure he's going to enjoy this even as an adult. But I mean, it looks like fun. It looks like they're continuing the story quite well. I enjoyed the first film quite a bit. I think I'm going to enjoy this one more, hopefully, and can't wait to see it. Actually, I'm a little bit more jazzed for a Sonic movie than I ever thought I would be. Let's put it that way.
How about you guys? Did you see the trailer yet?
I saw part of the trailer and it looks fantastic. And, you know, it is a win. And it's just so good to see something like this coming out and something that we can look forward to. And obviously they've kept the design that everyone is happy with. And that was incredibly important. And, you know, this particular franchise and IP alone is an example of why you absolutely need to keep the authenticity of these characters in their look. I mean, I was shocked when they had changed the look of Sonic from, you know, in the first example. And, you know, I just couldn't believe they were going to go forward with it. And what a joy it was that they did change it to, as you said, Andre, a more realistic, a more a representation that we see in the video game. Because I have friends, I don't have any children of my own, but I have friends who have children, and I've watched them play that game so many years, 10, 15 years even, replaying the same games. And they were looking forward to this particular depiction of Sonic. And as Andre said, the second trailer, they're taking the story even further. It's more adventures, more fun. This is fantastic, and it's going to be a great film.
Kamran?
I've regrettably not seen the trailer yet, but what I am excited about is the fact that they're continuing, from all the accounts I'm hearing here, they're continuing learning from success, which is give the audience what it wants and keep giving the audience more of what it wants. And so remember, they've had, like I said, this was the last successful movie before the lockdowns and everything began. And there's been a lot of political pressures in the last 18 months, a lot of political change in the United States. They could have easily decided, well, I guess maybe the market isn't there. Maybe we should just turn on a woke path or an SJW path. And they just seem to want to entertain people, as we saw Mr. Reitman wanted to do with Ghostbusters. And I believe this movie will be as much of a success, or even more of a success than the first one was, which will, again, allow more of these trains to get onto that track and make people move the other trains off the track.
Yeah, and as for me, again, obviously it's a children's movie, and that means that the appeal can be somewhat limited. But the first one was a fun movie. It was a fun, joyous, enjoyable for everyone movie. And I hope that this one is going to be more of that. It certainly looks that way from the trailer. I mean, it looks like it's going to be the natural continuation, only bigger and with more features, kind of like how the original game, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, was a vast improvement over the original game, because that's where you had the spin dash and everything like that, which weren't in the original. I mean, like Sonic the Hedgehog Part 2 was one of the best games on the entirety of the Mega Drive, whereas the original one is not. And I hope that we can continue with that. I mean, and we get the return of Jim Carrey. Not only that, we get the return of Jim Carrey and his acolyte, if you will, his number 2 man, the one who obviously looks up to him. And just the chemistry between the two, I think, is fantastic. I'm so excited to see the two of them back. Because Jim Carrey, he made the previous movie. So, yeah, brilliant stuff. Can't wait for it.
I mean, I like the little Easter eggs with, like, Sonic Pinball and stuff, too. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, actually, here's the thing. It might not have been a reference to Spinball, the game. Well, maybe it was. I have to review.
The sound effects reminded me of it, because he's going down the hall and he's in the circle and he's ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, but that could be a reference to Casino Night Zone, which is
true.
I didn't even think Las Vegas level of Sonic the Hedgehog Part 2.
That could be.
And that's the visuals in that game. Some of those levels were amazing. I hope we get to see some of those levels in this movie. Other than just Green Hill Zone, because that was like the iconic of the first, but really there's so many better levels in Part 2.
You're probably right, because it's probably like the leading up to the climax where they have to go after Robotnik and Knuckles, and Robotnik probably set up a huge like thing for him to go through, so it'll probably be like the game, so they can kind of bring that into it. I think, considering how well they did the first film, I'm not too worried. I think they'll be clever with how they bring all this stuff into this. So, and everything looks great. I can't complain at all, considering what we got out of that first movie. As you saw the picture I posted first to kind of remind everybody how bad the original one looked until they changed it. So I'm glad to see that they're sticking with that. And I think Knuckles looks great. I think Tails looks great. Sonic, of course, still looks great. So we got what's his face back, Marsden's back. So looks like it's going to be fun. So, and like you said, Jim Carrey was a plus. I mean, I would have never cast him to begin with, but
no, neither would I. He would be like one of the last persons I would.
I was thinking more like
just
Paul Giamatti or somebody like that would have been a better Eggman. But then after you see the film, like you said, he had the most fun in that movie than he's probably had in 10, 20 years. You could feel it just through.
It was his best performance too in so many years, which is a shame because Jim Carrey is such a good actor. As I wish that he would have done more dramas, because the few dramatic roles he's had, they have been like the strongest performances. I mean, that guy. He has such talent. He could be such a performer.
Yeah. I mean, Robin Williams was able to balance. He started off obviously being a master comedian, and then he was able to do some very, very, very compelling, dramatic roles that were very emotional that have stayed with us, you know. And so I think Jim Carrey has that potential as well. I think he may just be in his comfort zone, which is that he knows how to be the funny guy. And I hope he'll start having more courage to embrace the dramatic things as Williams did.
Yeah. And Tom, bring back that.
I was waiting for a second half too, but we can at least start. Melvin Belliard sent in $20. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, lovely lady and handsome gentleman. I know he's not talking about me. I got a face for radio. Speaking of the first,
the ladies love the ball guy, so there's two.
I don't know about that.
Well, exactly.
That may be true, but
here's you have to consider this: like, ball guys have plenty testosterone.
This is the rumor.
What do you think about that? Before we go on to the super chat, is that fair?
I just like men. I don't care about their hair. So.
She just likes men. Men in tights. Speaking of the first Sonic, I thought the original design was purely bad. To garner attention for it and score win by changing it, I think it's not bad. Or I think, excuse me, by changing it, not that I think it's bad. Okay. Then he had another one he was bringing in. Here we go. I just thought they changed the look real quick. Well, here's the
But
beauty
they didn't
of that.
do it so quick, though.
Yeah.
I mean, they delayed the movie. And remember, this first trailer, that is one that would have come out like a good 9 months before the movie was due to be released anyway. And so they had all of that post-production time, and really all they had to do was come up with a new design and then load that into the algorithms and render it. So it came in just the right time, actually. So the decision to make the change came really quickly. But beyond that, they took the time they needed to take.
See, which says something, Andre, which says, again, and I'm gonna compare it to Ghostbusters, which I plan to see for the third time tonight because I love that movie so much. These are filmmakers that love the material. They love the Sonic and they love the audience for Sonic. Same thing with Ghostbusters. Love the underlying material and love the audience that love the material. So that when that happens, people will connect with it. And that is, and we're going to talk about the filmmakers that are still out there on the train tracks who don't love the underlying material, who want to change it, who want to change the audience, who resent the current audience that exists. And they have not been successful. And if there are any still on the train tracks, they won't be successful in my view, because I just think there is a major shift that's already beginning in the industry for the reasons that I've experienced internally, which we'll talk about.
Well, we've seen some already. We've seen like Nicki Minaj and a few other, hell, even Trevor Noah, whether it's for monetary reasons or because it's okay now to go against the norm, but he's even out there talking about the latest con, let's call it, that's going on. So and
he shook up the industry, by the way. You don't have to get onto medical issues, but he shook up the industry, because again, he may have been given a script by his producers to read that may have not come from an inspired, personal, passionate opinion of his. It may have, I don't know, but the pivotal thing is they allowed that on the air. They didn't make him do an apology afterwards. And so that shook up the industry on a very deep level. It allowed people to say, it's okay to maybe say it's time to move forward.
Well, and that's just it. I think some of the woke are waking up. I don't think you're wrong. I think we're starting to see a little bit of a turn on that part. I think it's got a long ways to go.
There's a process. Like, and we're going to talk about this. There's still going to be some
now,
hiccups.
as far as Sonic goes, like Script brought this up last night. Yeah, it was the easiest fix they could have had to deal with. It's not like the script changed. It's not like they went back and reshot anything. Everything, the movie we saw was exactly the movie they were going to give us to begin with. The only difference would have been the design of Sonic. So like Andre said, that was the easiest thing for them to make the decision on, to go back and just fix that model, because sure, it cost them a little bit, but not nearly as much as it probably would have cost them to go back and reshoot a bunch of things or anything like that when we see a lot of these films. And I'm glad they did, because I'm reminded of the Scooby-Doo movie, because that was my biggest complaint with that. The first one especially was, the movie's okay, but Scooby-Doo, they need to pick either he looks realistic as a Great Dane or he needs to look like he does in the cartoon, because this midway between bullshit is too fucking creepy. And that's the problem people had with Sonic, was it was this too far in between thing. And sure, because Jesse Miller brought up last night, he's like, the cartoon Sonic doesn't look as realistic in the real backgrounds. I'm like, I don't care. I'd rather have that than the fucking nightmare fuel we got with that first trailer. Because then I explained what I said about the whole Scooby-Doo thing, and I think that's it. It's that middle ground. You can't have it. You either got to go to the cartoon Sonic, or he obviously is not going to work as a realistic hedgehog.
And also, Tom, there was no one that liked that first version. There was no one out there who said, wow, that looks great. No one said that. And so I think that was also an indication that they had to do something if they wanted their film to be a success.
Well, the media did. The media did come down on the fans. But of course, we're used to that, right? Because every time the fans get a win, then the media is going, oh, well, you shouldn't just give in to the toxic fans.
Absolutely. That was their issue. But as for what they originally had, like this thing that was neither one nor the other, there is a scientific name for that. You know what it is?
Uncanny Valley.
Yeah, there's another one too. A Frankensteinian abomination. That's exactly what they had, and they got rid of it. Yeah. So kudos to them. And the money they spent on it, they earned back many times over, because I guarantee that movie would not have been the hit that it was if they hadn't. And that movie was a genuine hit. I mean, I even bought it in 4K.
Same here.
I would never have bought like that in 4K for any other reason.
I mean, I was even upset that it didn't get a 3D release. I'm like, this is like perfect for 3D.
I'm upset it didn't get a steel cover.
Yeah, right. I don't even think we did here in the U.S. Now that you mention it, Andre. But that's the sad part, is the movie probably could have done much better had it not come out when it did, because 3 weeks or 2 weeks into its release, oh shit, everything gets shut down.
It's the beauty is we kind of remember it for what it was. Kamran, you were saying.
No, I was saying that, and also because Tom is right, and we're both right about the delays in the process to fix it. There may have been plans to make a 3D version, but when they decided, their focus has to be on getting this character looking right, because they can't have the audience walk away. And remember, when they did that, it was actually revolutionary at the time, because we were still stuck with the only things on the track were garbage. The only things on the track were stuff like Birds of Prey and Charlie's Angels and Terminator Dark Fate that the audience didn't want. That was the only stuff. For them to actually at that moment make that choice was to be ahead of the curve. And that says something about them.
No, I agree, Cameron, and that's a great point. I can't remember the creative behind the scenes who made that decision. I apologize. I can't remember his name, but it definitely wasn't Paramount who pushed for that. I guarantee
he announced it on Twitter.
Yeah.
He announced it on Twitter.
I can't remember his name now. And I apologize.
We heard you. We heard you. Which, remember how we were all like, we heard you. Someone actually heard us. It was actually a revolutionary moment.
It was. It really was. Right. The rest of the industry hated it.
Well, and the Sonic fan base is pretty rabid. Like, we've learned this with our Ken Penders interview and stuff that we did. Like, they have a very, very loyal, and I wouldn't even call them like negative in a lot of ways, because like I've never had a negative experience with any of them, but like they're very passionate. And I hate using that term, because usually when people use that term, it means it's a nice way of saying that they're overzealous. No, I wouldn't say that at all. Would you, Andre? I don't think we ever had a negative interaction with any of the Sonic fans.
No, far from it. The responses were even interesting when we had our interview with Ken Penders. For those who haven't seen that, head on over to the Star Interviews playlist, and there we have it. Before we move on from this, Kamran, what are the chances if this is a hit for a Sega cinematic universe, like they have kind of teased with the introduction sequence, where you have like all the Sega games? I want my golden axe.
I mean, I think like you yourself said, they've teased it. They know where the money is, and they are very confident about this universe that they are presenting. So it would, if from a purely economic perspective, you want to milk everything as much as possible. And if they've got the audience and they're giving the audience what they want, that's why, with Ghostbusters, and those who have not seen the movie, stick around till the very end of the credits. There's two surprise end credit scenes.
Yes.
And in those two things, one is a callback to the original movie, which is quite fun and lovely. And the second, the very final one, is the setting up of the franchise, that there's more to come. And everyone wants sequels. Everyone wants a cinematic universe if they can sustain it. And it looks like as long as they keep giving the audience what they want with Sonic, they'll be able to create a broader universe.
And I'm pretty sure now that there's going to be, because Jason Reitman just got a huge deal with Sony. Ghost Core was set up for a reason. We've brought that up before. It was set up so they can do more in the universe. So yeah, I think we're gonna have plenty of Ghostbuster stuff for the next few years.
And I'm of the view that I'm so excited. Without revealing spoilers, let's just say there's a lot from the original movie in this one, and there is enough to continue on with some of that. Absolutely. But I'm actually excited to see these new characters. I liked them. I really did like them, and they were honoring the legacy of the predecessor characters, which is, of course, the mistake that was made in Star Wars, which is we didn't really care about these characters. And you watch this movie, and you're like, Force Awakens could have been this movie that focused primarily on a new generation and then honorably introduced the others back again and made us love. I want to see more adventures of these kids. I want them to be a series of Ghostbusters. Even if we never see the old team again, I like these kids. And I agree. Care about them in this film.
And not only that, we got the moments we needed that we didn't get in The Force Awakens and other places. And I'm not going to get into spoilers, but yeah, like that satisfaction that we didn't get, because like everybody was, I know I'm not alone when we're sitting in The Force Awakens and the movie's ramping up and you got Rey and you got Kylo doing their thing and Finn's just been fucked up, and all of a sudden the lightsaber flies into Rey's hands, and you think that's going to be Luke there, and because that audience was like freaking out. They're like, they saw the lightsaber go, and they're like, oh, everybody's like, you can feel the tension in the room. Everybody's like, oh, it's gonna be Luke, everybody's saying it, and all of a sudden it goes to Rey, and the whole thing just went, ooh, the whole room.
Yeah, and you could feel it. It was that like, movie as it was, had that been the moment you're describing, exactly, and then we ended the movie with them landing on the planet and Luke hugging Leia and Han, and that's all we would have needed. And we would have moved on now with Rey and the rest of them for the next movie.
Absolutely.
And perhaps Ghostbusters Afterlife is showing us that there is hope for a franchise, even if there is a misstep like the 2016 movie. A franchise can move on and still, use the characters that are valuable, that have, relevancy in another film, and give us what we needed to see, like what was missing in the 2016 Ghostbusters. I think we got in Afterlife.
I agree. And I think it's things like Cobra Kai and even Creed to an extent that have kind of started that path. And we didn't read that yet, Andre, just so you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I was waiting for you, actually. Your Norseman here, friend, Paulus Play.
Yeah.
100 Norwegian krona for you.
Yeah, he does. And he says the saga of the root canal, which he had.
Oh, no.
And dental crown ends.
Oh, no.
Yesterday, I had my crown installed for 3,000 Norwegian krona. That's the equivalent of $350.
I was gonna say it's not that much. It's still enough.
With love from Norway, Andre, Tom, Kamran, Rrrr. I love you all. Midnight's Edge Legions.
We love you too.
Better than Hollywood.
Which actually, I want to say this. This is such a wonderful channel. And the audience of this channel, I've been on quite a few YouTubes over the last 18 months, and I keep coming back. And the reason I come back here regularly is I love the audience of this channel. The chats are always interesting. You don't always agree with me, but it's very interesting, respectful thoughts that are coming in there. I feel welcome here. I don't always feel welcome on other YouTube channels. That's why I don't come back to them. But here I come back, and that's why I hope everyone will hit the like button. We have over 1,100 people watching right now. And
we have almost 1,200 watching. So everyone,
I have a feeling for that they're here to hear about Juicy, but
we're going to talk about Juicy, and we're going to talk about some other stuff. But the great thing is, what I've witnessed in the 18 months that I've been active on YouTube is that this channel keeps getting things right. I just saw the video. If none of you saw the video today, please watch it. The video about what's happening with Star Trek Discovery. I watched that just this morning, and it's amazing to see how much this channel got right. Got it from sources, but also did some speculation and analysis that ended up being supported as time went on. And that's what I think is special about this channel, is that it tends to be ahead of the curve, which is a difficult place to be at times, because it doesn't always match what appears to be happening. And I get to be a voice of at least things that don't necessarily match what appears to be happening, but may turn out to be true. And so far, I've got a decent record on this channel. So that's why this channel is so wonderful.
Yeah, well, the whole Star Trek thing, where there's even more to it, which is beautiful, because we couldn't fit it in the video. For those who saw it, as you saw, Netflix dropped Discovery and they didn't know what to do. Well, let me tell you, kids, that didn't just happen overnight, right? Like, that's something I don't think we really hit home in that video. Like, they're trying to pretend like this was all something that happened overnight. No. Netflix knew, and CBS knew at least 6 months to a year, if not more, in advance that this was happening. In fact, we pointed out in the video, as was pointed out in the article, as we reported in the past, Netflix didn't spend any money on this season. That means they've been out since then. They have not been a part of this since way back when.
They've been out since before the release of season 3. So they had all the time in the world to find someone else, and they didn't. And they had to scramble in the last moment.
And now it's being revealed to the general public through Deadline and others what was happening beneath the surface that you were able to perceive. And
what we revealed in 2019, year and a half it took before it was like the final official confirmation of what we reported then said. Because that's like the thing. There are many people that like to come at us, like to come at Kamran, like to come at many others in our field. For like, oh, you got this wrong, but very often I feel that they typically do some straw man, like to interject things that we didn't actually say.
Yeah, exactly. Even when I give my speculation, and you've been very generous, both Andre and Tom, to let me do my speculations. Often they're bizarre speculations, but they tend to come true. I always preface it as I'm speculating. This is what my instincts are based on my experiences here. And I'm going to give some speculations today, which may not necessarily match what appears to be happening on certain things. But that's the wonderful thing about this channel, is that we don't pretend to know what we don't know. And when I'm speculating, I state that I'm speculating, and I say, like, with Indiana Jones, I don't think it's going to work out. Do I have just out of instinct? And then history later seems to move a little bit in that direction. That's the great thing about this channel, is that we're able to analyze things and make possible predictions, but we don't claim that these are going to happen. But surprising, a lot of them do happen.
What we do is we give eventualities. In this case, this is what appears to happen. They're now at a crossroads where they have to choose this or they have to choose this. If they choose this, that may happen. If they choose that, that may happen. That's how we generally tend to roll here.
There was another part of this, because as we said, like, this whole Netflix thing didn't happen overnight. CBS knew the only reason they had to announce it is because they had no place else to go. That's pretty much it. They were Richard Gere and was a lack of options. Yeah, I got no place else to go. That's pretty much what it was. But there was another bit of news that came out that just kind of coasted under the radar, and I'm sure that CBS wanted it to, because it confirms something from way, way, way back when. And this is some Schadenfreude for Andre right here.
Yeah, and
I made that for Andre.
Very proud that we at Midnight's Edge, we weren't the ones to discover the 25%. That was like one of the set designers or something on Discovery that first like put it into public, but no one paid attention to it until we put it into context, in a context that no one had seen before, and really blew it up. And here comes the official confirmation. Whoa, look at that. Midnight's Edge was right. 25% different. I mean, we use it as a joke and as a catchphrase.
It's become a meme now. Yeah,
it's a meme. And when we say 20, we don't mean literally 25%, but like enough to be legally different. But look, there it is. It's official now. 25% different.
Well, I don't know how
Oh, yeah.
official, but like this was somebody. I like I said, I think this was something they were just putting out there to admit that because they know they're going to get the feedback.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think they think it's been long enough since we reported it. I don't know if they've realized how much of a meme it's become. I really don't.
Well, so to keep advancing us, I'm going to say maybe we should talk about something that's more than 25% different, which is the official version of events versus what actually happened in a certain trial. You know, so
Are you talking about that
actors
famous
claimed
French
what
actor?
happened at 25% off of what actually happened, at least.
Are you talking about that
Indeed.
famous French actor? How do you say it?
Smolliet.
Juicy
I'm
Smollett.
not
To
so
me,
sure
that
if the
is
S is silent or not.
he can change the writing of his name, because to me, and I'm sure to many others, I don't care what his birth name is.
Well, we'll
he
just
shall
call him
forever
future porn
be
star.
Juicy Smollett.
Future porn star Juicy Smolliet was found guilty yesterday.
You may not be
On
off
5
that,
of 6
Fred.
counts.
You may not.
And he's also the brother of deceased Black Canary, who is in the who last we heard, again this is rumor, is in talks for her own Black Canary TV series starring the sister of Juicy Smollett.
Which, you know, the thing is that she's a talented actress. I think the whole family it's a family of actors, and I think they're all going to be at least damaged by this. You know, I think she's probably going to have a career, but they're going to have this cloud hanging over them because it went from being sort of an internal laughingstock to a major global legal issue. People are talking about this thing.
I mean, they know how to pick them, don't they? I mean, talking about like giving, Aqua Lady, she who poops in Pirate Guy's bed, own spin-off series, and now they're giving the sister of Juicy Smollett, or at least in talks of giving the sister of Juicy Smollett a spin-off series. So yeah, they sure know how to pick him over at DC.
Again, it's all about, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later too. A lot of stuff gets announced that doesn't actually ever appear on the screen.
I will say this: I think that her series was more happening before this shit went down. Because
I think so too.
Yeah, I think that delayed things a little bit. But no, like Culture Casino has done a beautiful job of breaking down this stuff last night, and he had a hell of a crowd watching him, and he was on Midnight's Edge After Dark talking a little bit about it. And I mean, there's a lot goes into this. I mean, let's be real. I mean, even though he's possibly facing like 4 years jail time or whatever, I think he's getting off very easy considering. I mean, I don't even think they're making some of the grander points that could be made with this whole thing. And I think this is another big swing in another direction, because I think this was a trial that I don't even know they didn't get behind it as much as a more recent one that I don't want to get into. The media was still hanging on this, and there was a lot of people showing support still on Twitter. I don't know why, but like at this point, you would think that they would have been smart enough to just let it happen and keep their mouth shut and privately support the guy, because right now this is not looking good for him. And I, even though I was joking earlier about future porn star, I think that's about the most he can look forward to in the future.
Well, he did some quite porn things with one of the alleged white MAGA hat wearing people from Nigeria. But anyway,
well, as John Travolta likes to say, working out used to be code word for sex.
Yeah. But before we get into any of that, Kamran, because here's like the thing, he was found guilty on 5 of 6 counts. Yes. And many were surprised that he wasn't found guilty on 6 of 6 counts. Like, do you have any insight into what was it that he was found guilty of or found innocent of doing?
Well, I haven't looked at it deep enough to give it a legal analysis. I'm a former lawyer. I didn't look at it that closely. It is curious to me that, because it's all coming out of the same incident where that he was essentially found not guilty of.
Well, they were basically all counts of like lying to police officers. So.
Right. And I think there may have been a complicated issue of just how, because his alleged assailants were wearing masks, whether what he officially said on that particular claim was technically accurate, because the people, even if he had planned it, were wearing masks. It may have just come down to verbology and words. But actually that says to me that this jury took it very seriously. They knew that this was a national and global event. The President of the United States had commented on it, and the Vice President of the United States had commented on it, right? That they weren't just going to do an across the board thing. I think it's similar to the level of in-depth time they took on the Rittenhouse trial, whether one likes that verdict or not, that jury took its time, took several days, because they really didn't want to be accused of not taking this seriously. In fact, that they said, okay, well, I think maybe the way he phrased what he said to the detective isn't really technically lying to the detective in this particular instance. He'll give a not guilty on that. That says to me
that's about right. Ben Wade, the nice gunslinger, says in the comments,
Yep.
the 6th count was not guilty because of the statement he made to the detective about the masks.
So okay, so it may technically have been accurate, but I'm going to give a prediction that may be proven wrong within a few hours or a few days. Okay. I actually think this gentleman's going to serve a little bit of time. I don't think he's going to get completely, as everyone is saying, he's going to get, community service. I think what he did for himself was a very big mistake of putting himself on the a stand and just blatantly. If the jury concluded that he's lying, the judge saw that. It makes him, generally defendants don't go on the stand for this reason. If the judge concludes you're blatantly lying, it's a mockery of the entire justice system.
It was a shit show.
It's worse. No, it's worse. And again, I'm not the lawyer, and my opinion on this doesn't matter. But really, I think that this is a case where he needs to be punished to the most extreme manner available within the law.
He won't.
I know he won't be. I'm not saying that, but I will argue why I think he should. I don't know if this is possible, but if it's like 3 years on each count, in my opinion, you need to add those 3 years and give him 15 years for this. I will tell why. There are so many cases of people that make a false accusation against someone for anything in divorce, in crime. There's so many false accusations, and you make a false accusation, you can ruin someone's life.
We saw with Johnny Depp.
Lock someone in for years and years, and typically the one that makes the lie gets away scot-free. Like the best thing that can happen is the one that is accused, that's falsely accused, will be freed of all accusations and can walk away with their name cleared in court after how many years. But the one that lied to begin with, they're typically not going to have any repercussions whatsoever, which is absolutely dreadful. In this case, it's not a matter of like someone that accused their ex-spouse or something like that. No, or ex-colleague, as it were, whatever. It's worse. This is at a time when relations in America are pretty low, when there's a cold civil war that's heating up. And this is then someone that really tries to fire and stoke the flames that already are there. I'm sure that if there was a way for him to be a victim of like an actual racist homophobic attack, he would be very happy to do that, but that didn't happen. I'm sure he wandered around in Chicago many, many times looking to be beaten up by some MAGA hat-wearing Trump supporters, and it didn't happen. So he decided to like help things along to further the narrative, and you saw everyone got behind it. The then presidential candidate, the then VP candidate, every talking head, all were behind him completely. Everyone were calling for the blood of every person wearing a MAGA
Well, I feel
hat.
like I think it fed right into what happened the following summer, right? Like, and I think
exactly, and because
I don't think he'll ever be held accountable for that. I agree with you, Andre.
But he should.
110%. I do. I agree with you. I do, and this is what we talked about last night.
I mean, to me, this is some level of national treason.
I agree, and unfortunately, what will end up happening though is
I'm not saying that I agree with you. That's what's going to happen. But I'm saying, in an ideal society, he needs to go away for 15 fucking years.
He won't.
I don't know. I know he won't. But what I'm saying here is, in an ideal world, for this kind of high treason to the nation, that's what should happen, because that's what
I agree with you 110%.
But I also think
let's get our perspective. Yeah, please.
I'm sorry. I think that we also have to look at it from the perspective of the fact that he plans on appealing this decision. And and it will return to court if it's not thrown out, or whatever they decide to do. But I think that he's going to be found not guilty of more of the charges, and he'll keep going. There will be people just supporting him because they want this to be true. This is something that they feel that they have to support, and something that they feel has to be the truth. So, regardless of the fact that there are clearly credibility issues, regardless of the fact that he perjured himself on stand, regardless of the fact that people are just bewildered as to how an actor that seemed like they were successful ended up with this Hollywood don't, how did he end up here? Regardless of all this stuff, there's still a contingency of individuals who want to support him and push this issue. And I wish there was a way that could just stop, because the investigation in itself is telling all of us that this just didn't happen. And even if he did interpret it as a certain way, that doesn't make it true. So, this is just really sad. It's wasted so much of our time, so much effort on this. He was in a good show, even if he was leaving Empire, for relatively speaking, for this actor, things were looking up for him. His career wasn't over when he left that show. So I really ponder, like what the motivations are. Let's say if they're saying that he exploited this for notoriety, well, who wants this type of notoriety? Who would want this on their record? I wouldn't want that.
I can answer that.
I can too.
In a society where you are elevated by being a victim, where you are judged by your level of victimhood, that gives you rights. That's like the whole thing with like the CRT thing, right? The more oppressed you are according to that ideology, the more worth you have as a human. Your value as a human increases by your level of victimhood. Like if this were to happen to him, that's the reason enough. Yeah, he'll be known for the attack.
Media feeds into this.
He'll be a hero and an icon, and that's exactly what he was. He claimed that this happened to him, and he was instantly the hero of the current president of the United States. I mean, everyone was screaming justice for Juicy.
Pretty much. Go ahead, Cameron.
I wanted to actually directly add something to based on what Rrrr's very sensitive response was. Thank you for that. Because you're going beneath the levels of outrage to talk about the human dynamics and psychology involved. And I had a wonderful conversation. I'm going to mention him by name. I don't think he's in the chat today, but he's been a regular viewer by one of my Patreon members, Wintrell Taylor, who's African American, and I had a call with him a couple of days ago, as I sometimes do with my Patreon members, and we talked about this issue. We talked about the rioting, the BLM stuff. And he's African American. He's former military, and he's got a child, and he's talked about. And forgive me, Mintrell, if I'm revealing things that you want in private, but I feel like I should talk about these issues here, which is that he talked about, he's trying to figure out how to get heroes for his son, right? And that he can see that a generation is being co-opted by politicians taking the stance of Black Lives Matter and presenting themselves as the heroes. And this generation doesn't have, in my view, and I had this conversation with him, a real hero like a Malcolm X, who actually stood for something, who went to prison, came out, and never lied about what he did. He said, I did these things. I was a street hustler. I was a burglar. I did all these terrible things, and now I've changed. He didn't lie about who he was. He transformed himself and became an example of a self-empowered, dignified man to the Black community and to the world. And the challenge we're facing right now is that this generation doesn't have these heroes. We've got these shady politicians and people that are talking about, I just saw on the Black Lives Matter Twitter feed, which I can still watch Twitter even if I can't participate. And the feed was just a few days ago, capitalism is anti-Black. I'm like, Malcolm X was all about Black people should go make their own businesses and be self-sufficient economically, right? So I was like, okay, we've now revealed that you guys are just communists hiding behind Black Lives Matter, right? And so we don't have for this generation the kinds of heroes that I think it needs. And it's unfortunate that people like this are trying to create fraudulent heroes, which I think is damaging a whole generation.
No, I agree with you 110%. And I'm glad you brought up Malcolm X, because he kind of forewarned us about a lot of this kind of stuff. And, and here we go. Like, this come up in my feed yesterday. We're right down that path where it's just, creating more of a problem. And here we go. Oregon governor signs a bill removing reading, writing, and math requirements for high school students to
And
help
that really
students of color.
started, Tom, with when they introduced the Common Core about 10 or 15 years ago, and there was a huge response from parents about, honestly, part of the problem with it was not just what was removed or added in the curriculum, but another bit of the criticism was the fact that there were changes that were made that would, essentially tell parents that their children had to solve a problem a certain way, which was actually slightly different from, let's say, the traditional way that everybody else in the United States learned how to solve a problem. So, they introduced these new techniques, and they weren't sort of like brought in a way that would make everyone comfortable. So essentially saying, right now you can solve it two different ways, pick one of them, but telling a person, hey, if I teach you how to do reading and writing and arithmetic this way, and I don't really like the method you used, so I'm going to give you a wrong answer, even though you got the right one, you're not going to get a lot of people supporting it. Just like with this individual who decides to pull out specific, subjects that are needed by everyone. Clearly, it's not going to help anyone. And what it actually does is the teachers are left in a position where they are practically teaching nothing to these students. And, it's
except identity.
That's pretty much what it is. Yeah.
There is no, it feels like the importance of education is kind of being removed, and it has nothing to do with ethnicity. It has nothing to do with background or socioeconomic. It may just be something that they can do. And I bet you she's saving a lot of money by removing those particular.
But dumbing down a populace, politicians love that. A populace can't add and subtract properly is a populace that can be controlled, that doesn't understand taxes.
George Carlin said it.
Well, and again, I'll go back to my hero, Malcolm X. At his lowest moment in prison, where he was considered one of the worst prisoners, he had a spiritual transformation. He found God in prison. And what did he do? During the years he was in prison, he memorized the dictionary. And he could explain to you what words, not only the meanings of every word in the dictionary, he could explain the Latin origins of the word. That's why he came out from being a street hustler to one of the greatest orators of all time. And he did that to himself while in prison. So the idea that a black man or black or minority or anyone, it's too hard to do this stuff. I promise you, I can't memorize a dictionary. That requires a level of discipline. That's really hard for anybody. And this black man in prison did it and changed his life and changed the world. And so again, that bigotry of lower expectations, it's shocking to me. And it's heartbreaking. Because again, we don't have the hero saying, look at me. The reason that Malcolm X was so beloved, why he was called our Black Shining Prince when he was assassinated by so many Black heroes at the time, was that he made them feel good about themselves. Even before Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was the next in the line. He said, here's a man who was in prison, who's now incredibly well-dressed, incredibly moral, incredibly passionate, incredibly educated, completely self-done. If he can do that, I can do that. That's a message.
And a very positive one, and an outcome that after a life lived, even despite making mistakes, you can still come out on top and see where your life went wrong and learn from those mistakes. And I think that alone speaks volumes about his life and his accomplishments.
And for those who still don't know about him, the reason he died is that he renounced racial separatism, which was part of his ideology before. He believed blacks would be better off just doing their own thing and making their own nations and their own communities that were economically successful without white people hassling them. And then he renounced that, and he was killed by people who liked that message. He wasn't killed by white racists.
Well, another very interesting thing to add to what you're saying, Kamran, is that he was brought up at a time when racial separatism was something that was being pushed throughout the United States, even though it was perhaps not practiced the same way everywhere. It was an ideology that was pretty much on the books in some states and accepted as something as being the norm in others. So, can you imagine growing up at a time like that? I can't imagine that. Yeah. None of us here who are alive now can really imagine that. But
and took ownership of it. When white people were saying we got to put black people in this neighborhood, it's like, oh yeah, you know what? You don't have to tell us that. We're going to do it ourselves, and we're going to become rich in our neighborhoods. We're going to become prosperous, and we don't need your help. We don't want your help. That was flipping that message of oppression into empowerment, which no one knew how to handle.
But so going back to the initial, but this all feeds into the original question and point. And yeah, I think that's what this is all about. I think Juicy saw a chance to become a professional victim and use that to his advantage. Maybe his career wasn't advancing as fast as he would liked it to, no matter what the reasoning is. But no, I guarantee you Andre is 100% correct, because this is something we talk about quite a bit on Comics Division on Thursday nights. Like this is part of the culture now, and I seen it in full action when I went and said one thing on Twitter, and I just watch them come out in droves like lemmings, and it's all about, well, this, that, and the other, and it's them trying to make it all about them. It's like, you know, and one of the biggest points I kept making is like, do you not realize how narcissistic you make it sound to say that, you know, you may identify with a certain character, but to deny that anybody else could ever possibly identify with anybody who doesn't look like them is just fucking the most ignorant thing I've ever heard in my life, right? Like, and here we are now in this culture where that's where we're at, and somebody like Juicy sees an opportunity like this and is like, yeah, we're in the hottest point of this political situation. We've got a nation that's on edge. I've got the perfect opportunity to make myself look like a victim and come out a hero on the other end. And I'm glad, and I'm glad, because this thing turned into a shit show for him. His lawyer got pissed and stormed out of the fucking courtroom because the judge basically said something to her that pissed her off. The judge basically reprimanded, you know, him and a bunch of other people during the sentencing. You know, the jury didn't even have to deliberate for very long. I mean, this was a one and done day deal. Like, I don't even know how this got to trial like this. Like, I can't believe he didn't do a plea. Because how did he not expect, like, it doesn't matter what he said. There's the check, there's the video, and there's just more than enough evidence to be like, look, dude, you just need to come clean here. It's going to be better for you in the end, right?
Let's tie that into Hollywood. Which
yeah,
is
exactly. Go ahead, Cameron. Thank you.
Let's tie that into Hollywood, because it's a really important point you raised there, Tom. And I said this in the days when I was on Twitter, before I was kicked off. I tweeted out when I figured out very quickly that this was a fraud. I tweeted out that Mr. Smolliet represents everything that I've come to hate about the current moment in Hollywood, which is this arrogance, this self-absorption, this narcissism, and most importantly, contempt for the intelligence of the audience. The story was so ludicrous, as Dave Chappelle said in one of his funniest skits. He said, you know, the black community largely kept silent because they all knew it was an obvious fraud, right? And they're just like, okay, we're just going to keep our mouth shut because this guy's going down in flames, right? And it was such an obviously ridiculous story that insulted the intelligence of the audience. And this reflected the mindset of the industry, that the audience is a bunch of buffoons. The audience is an inferior thing, which was the tracks that we're talking about. The trains were full of the audience is a bunch of morons. We will give them stuff that makes no sense. We will give them poor characters because they are dumb people who will swallow it up. And they were shocked in the same way that Mr. Smolliet was shocked that the audience wasn't dumb. And that's why they had to hold on to it, because this is almost like an ideology for them. I am smarter than these people. How can it be that my brilliant scheme has been uncovered by the Scooby-Doo gang?
Yeah, that must have come as a surprise.
Well, and that's the thing. I think that's a common problem with a lot of people on, let's say, that side of the agenda. I don't want to say that side of the aisle or that side of politics, because that separates people too much. I will say the people on that side of the agenda, they don't think these things through. Like that's the number one thing. And I mean, only somebody like that would come up with a scheme like this in the first place. Like this, first of all, what did he hope to accomplish? We all have sitting here for the last, hour almost talking about that. I think we know what he wanted to accomplish, but in the end, I sadly, I agree with you, Andre. I think he should get the hardest sentence he could possibly. And there's a lot of things that were not brought up that should have been brought up in this case that probably never will. But I think like Rrrr's right as well. He's going to appeal this shit left and right until it gets to the point where it's down to nothing. And he'll sit for about maybe a couple weeks at most, maybe a couple months. And then they'll give him some community service and everybody will forget about it. And then he'll come back as, porn star Juicy Smolliet.
Again, I'm going to take a slightly different perspective. I think he will serve some time. And I am of the view I don't think his appeals will succeed, because they're going to be based on, was there any the appeal, the facts have been determined by the jury. That's not what's going to be appealed. What's going to be appealed is was a legal procedure by the judge and the jury incorrect. And I have not seen evidence to suggest that there's any real thing that you can make a bigger argument in the Rittenhouse trial, even though
I hope you're right, Cameron. I
just don't. I think this judge was pretty, in the center, and we'll see. But I'm of the view I think this is, and what I will agree with you, Tom, is this: I think the industry wants to make this go away. They want this to go. They want him to stop. They don't want him appealing. They want him to do whatever, even if it's community service, to shut up and go away, because this is real embarrassing. That's why everyone who supported him has been absolutely silent. Everyone has just been silent. They want it to go away. It's not going to go away because the damage was done. And that's
I think they need to be confronted. Every single one who supported him should be confronted with him. Like, you were also there, ready to stoke the fires in a country that's on fire already.
Unfortunately,
what do you have to say to your defense?
Unfortunately, they won't really. That's the thing, Andres. They won't, because they have no. What do you call this? They have no legal precedent to go after him for something like that. You haven't.
Oh, like I said last time, I mean legally. I don't mean legally, but
no,
like,
but I mean even to charge him with any kind of crime, like conspiracy or any kind of or invoking any kind of thing, or like a riot or anything like that. Because like we were talking about last night, it's like, even if somebody wants to go after him civilly, or if there's any kind of civil suit, you literally would have to have somebody come, like have a situation where like somebody came in your store and said, I'm doing this for Juicy Smolliet, and burn down their store. Like, that's literally, we'd have to have an incident like that.
Yeah. I know, and that's why I'm saying that it shouldn't be a civil thing. I do not know American law enough that I can say if there is a clause that would apply, but the closest thing I can think of is national treason, working deliberately against national interest. This is it. I
don't think anybody's been charged with that in so fucking long, and especially the last thing they're going to do is charge some actor for it. So, like, I get where you're coming from, Andre, and I agree with you 110%. Unfortunately, the burden of proof would be there to like kind of be able to even do that. So, like, at this point, we're just, for our sake as a country, and for his sake as a person, I hope he comes to terms with it, because where I'm at with you is like, I say they make him sit there until he finally admits that he fucked up, because that's the problem I have with him right now. Is
that would be
in fucking denial as shit. Like, I know he knows he fucked up, but
I think that his ego is too fragile that he can never admit that he
exactly.
Did that.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's narcissism there. There's probably a little bit of psychosis there. I mean, there's certainly pathological lying and inability, even when confronted by his co-conspirators testifying. They told us to do this, right? That it's like a certain ex-wife of a certain actor in a pirate, right? Who, no matter how much evidence is presented, them lying will just bald-faced look in the camera. It's pathological. I've met a couple of pathological liars. There's a psychosis there. It's basically they can't let go of it because their entire personality will collapse if they admit to themselves something. And so it's almost like they're convincing themselves. That's what pathological liars are.
And like Platonic Guardian brought up here, like, treason requires a comfort to an enemy of the United States. And like I said, even like inciting a riot and all those things are really tough to make stick. That's why I think this whole thing that happened on a certain day in January is probably going to be like, once we get to the court side of things, much like the Rittenhouse side of things, the media can portray it all they want. These people can have all the truths they want, but the law is the law, and the burden of proof and all that kind of business is part of what makes the law the law. And when you have something like the Juicy Smolliet case, where there's more than enough proof that he faked the shit, it doesn't matter what he believes.
But you see, this is the thing, and maybe this will allow us to move on to other Hollywood topics that we have on this here, which is
because we do need to move on.
But let's bridge it. Let's bridge it to the next topic, which I think
actually before we bridge, we have a couple of super chats.
Well, let's let Cameron make his point, though.
Well, I just want to make the bridging.
So Cameron's point, super chats for Cameron on this point, because we have something.
Which I just want to make the bridging point is this, to get back now onto Hollywood Track and some of the other things we want to talk about, which is that ultimately the reason, I'm an immigrant to this country. I'm a naturalized citizen to this country. I wasn't born here, right? And the reason, with all of its flaws and with all the stuff that's happening right now, I still think this is the best country in the world, is at the end of the day, it is not a centralized country, and it is widespread, and there is a general idea of what being an American is right, you know, whether one can say whether it's been properly executed or not, which is a sense of justice. And that's been the struggle we've had throughout 300 years, is whether we're actually living to the sense of justice and the ideals of the Constitution, whether the Constitution has things in it that don't live up to it, all of that. We're struggling with it. But there is a sense of being Americans, being something special, is that, you know, you embrace certain ideas, and that includes justice, includes fair trials, and includes honesty. And I think what we're seeing is that structure of the general community is holding together despite everything. That's why the jury trials are leading to outcomes that many of us feel are fair, right? And what that lead the bridge is this, is that despite the best efforts of Hollywood to attempt to change society from the top down, and that's what Mr. Smolliet is part of. That's what a lot of the bad television movies that have been made and some still coming are part of. It's not going to work because the populace ultimately has a sense of itself and isn't going to buy this stuff. It's not going to buy these ideologies. That's why Hollywood has failed. And that's why I think any trains that are still on that woke track are going to fail and may never actually get into the station. And that, I think, is the bridge when we're ready to talk about the next topic.
Yes, but before then, Tom, in the last couple of minutes, there came a few super chats on this topic. Now, on my screen, I have the classic ones. So if you can get into
let's go. Yeah,
those
we'll go
more
backwards.
recent ones on this topic.
And then Oi Bardic Fury sends in $10. Thank you so much. Says my comic Bardic Fury 3 is live on Indiegogo. Fantasy manga about ancient rock stars and idols, an Iron Age Ireland bards versus child sacrificing druid cult from the woods of Holly. Asterix meets Promethea. There you go. So if our one of our wrenches can find the link for that and share that in the chat, we'd appreciate that. That's cool.
Yeah. But then we also had some super chats specific on this topic.
Yeah. Melvin Belliard points out that another streamer brought up that what he should do is make a public apology to Trump and his supporters. I agree, but that will never happen. I mean, they might make him make a public apology, and that'll probably be part of his. What's going to happen here is I think Cameron's right. I think that he'll get enough pressure from people inside that he will drop these appeals, and he'll probably make some big, huge public apology, and it'll all be part of some like massive, like he'll make a deal, and it's
a redemption kind of thing.
Yeah, it'll all kind of. Again, I do think he's going to sit some time, but not nearly as much as he should. Let's put it that way. But no, I don't think that part will happen, but I think half of it will happen, Melvin. I think he will make a public apology. I do feel like that's
the people
probably
of Chicago.
Yeah, it'll come to that eventually.
Yeah, that's fine.
Tanobi-san is also a member. Thank you for that. But let's see here what else we had. Luca Rock says Smolliet should be sentenced to a lifetime of asylum movies, or even worse, Hallmark movies. No, that's too good for him, man. That's why I said porn.
I don't know, man. Some Hallmark movies are pretty good. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. These are that's too good for him. That's my point.
I mean, they're entertaining and they're heartfelt and whatever. Yeah,
that's too damn good for him. Rubber Band Man says, as Black Native American U.S. Malcolm X preached doing for yourself education, plus he had conservative values, which people leave out. Yeah, well, Cameron actually brings that kind of stuff up quite frequently.
It's troubling for Hollywood. There's a reason that he is not promoted. Even the reason that Spike Lee made Malcolm X without taking $1 from the industry is they knew that Malcolm X is a problem because he had conservative traditional values. He's a family man. You know, that famous photo of him holding the gun, that's him protecting his children from people that said they were going to come burn down his house, which they did a week later, right? And so, you know, he doesn't fit the narrative that they need a lot of people to believe. And so the industry doesn't want to talk about him.
Yeah. Then Paulus Plain has a suggestion for you, Andre.
Yeah,
Andre, old boy. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. No, you do it. This is a suggestion is for me.
Old boy, please. I'm dyslexic. Learn to love the letter C. Sweet, sweet old boy. I have to learn English and Norwegian, grammar and spelling every day of my life. Kamran Pasha, teach the man. Love for the letter C.
Love the C. Love the letter C.
Yeah, that's because I have a well-known disdain for the letter C, because it's pronounced both S and K depending on context. And to me,
in Norwegian or in English, you're talking about.
The letter C doesn't occur in Norwegian, only in words that are imported. because in Norwegian words we either use S or K, whereas C is pronounced both, depending
Yeah,
on
because us
context.
Americans got to complicate shit.
Actually, that's not
I
your
know.
fault.
It's not
That's
our
the
fault.
English
So
fault.
English
And,
is,
and historically, it was only only the hard C existed, meaning it was only pronounced K during the time of Latin. Whenever there was the letter C, it was pronounced K without exception. So, for instance, Caesar, if you travel back in time and you went to ancient Rome and you asked for an audience with Caesar, they would have no idea who the hell you were talking about, because his name in Latin for the Romans was pronounced Kaiser.
like Kaiser Soze.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like in most European languages, the word for emperor actually is some variation of Kaiser. Even the Russian Tsar is derived from that. But you can't tell because of some mauling that happened to the letter C over the years. So anyone trying to teach me love for the letter C, that's a challenge.
He's dead inside. Don't worry about it. Mecha J says with $5 a question for Cameron. How much do you think this has affected Smolliet's career? Do you think anyone in Hollywood will be willing to work with him after this? Well, Cameron, what do you think?
I think Tom is right. I think the only thing he's got left is sort of fringe adult stuff. You know, I don't think the adult industry wants to work with him. The adult industry is interesting enough, actually quite conservative. You know, see a lot of adult stars.
You don't think that they would hire him?
No, like I said, fringe adult stuff. Like this is when.
Well, I have a feeling he could get a job as probably some gay porn star. I really do.
Well, again, on the fringe elements of it, but
exactly
within the industry itself. Talking about this, about the Hollywood industry, I don't think. Even if he did I apologize to people of Chicago. I'm getting counseling, all that stuff, right? It's not gonna. No one's gonna want to put money on this guy ever for the rest of his life. I think he's done. The question is whether the rest of his family, which is a successful acting family, is done. And we're gonna see what happens to Sister, who I believe is a talented actress. And you know, like any family member, she supported him through this. And I'm sure she knew in her heart what happened, but she's got to help her brother, right? But you know, that will be a tragedy. I mean, that he's pulling in everybody else down with him. I think that their careers won't end, but I think they will be impacted. The name is going to be a bit of a problem.
And I think that's where a lot of the pressure is going to come from. Did you have anything to add to that? Or
I agree with Cameron. I think it's unfortunate that, you know, his name is going to be forever tied to this, whether or not he comes out and apologizes to Trump supporters, whether or not he admits that he was wrong. This particular situation is especially harmful to him and him alone. You know, he's not going to be able to really change people's opinions about him after this, you know, this kerfuffle of a court case. And, you know, this really has had such a negative impact on him, especially that even talking about his career at this point, you know, it's almost a moot point. I don't think there's going to be anybody out there who's going to be raising a hand to work with him, let alone pay him to work.
Right.
So there's two, you know, sides of this. You know, I think even if he volunteered for something, I don't think there's going to be very many people who are going to say, yeah, sure, we'll take you.
Because his name will pull it down. His name will bring back.
Yeah, the only time where that is not a disadvantage, like I said, is the adult industry, unfortunately, because they will take advantage of somebody who is a fallen star in that case. But like you're right, in some cases, Cameron, he may not even get much love there.
What do you think? I mean, if he did get something like that and some incident happened on the set, you know, it could end up, you know, with the police coming to the set. This is what I would be thinking and would be very fearful, even as in the adult industry, which has somewhat of a sketchy way of operating anyway.
Well, the interesting thing is this, and I said this in the chat, you know, living in LA, you interact and you meet people in that industry. And certainly, you know, the actors and actresses that I've met from that industry, they're all actually very well read. They are very intelligent people. You know, some of them are very conservative values. You'll see people like Bonnie Rotten is a big, you know, Second Amendment person out there. Her entire Instagram is her shooting guns, right? And so I think a lot of people would just not want to work with him because he insulted their intelligence and they don't share his values.
I even think if he made a film where it was just him, I don't think anyone would buy it.
Right, I agree with you. No, and I think the bigger thing is going to be this, and this is where I'm, you know, even though I'm joking about the whole adult thing, like I do agree with you guys. Like he's going to have a tough time because We're not even thinking about the civil suit that he's going to get
Mhm.
with these guys that he accused of this shit, right? Nobody's even talking about that yet, to where these guys are going to come after him. That's where all the messy shit's going to come out in the press.
Yes.
Right? Like we thought that there was some messy stuff that came out here. Oh no, wait till these guys come after him for defamation and all the other shit that
Yeah,
they're going
because
to
he's
come
got
after him
money.
for.
He's got
Yeah.
money. He's got
And
money.
Tom and gentlemen, what if he decided he wanted to do a one-man show, like some sort of off-Broadway thing or something?
I don't
You know,
think they'd let him.
who would buy a ticket? Who would even host anything that he had? Who would even want to promote something like that? You know,
Well-
let's say if it was aside from the adult industry, you know, would people, his supporters, still go ahead and spend $100,000 on a production for something like that? Would he
No.
even be able to do that now?
I
No,
It's
doubt it.
risky, right?
Yeah, it's there's he's kind of done. Someone said he might have OnlyFans. I think he might be able to get some money off OnlyFans.
Mhm.
You know, and maybe that's his future. But we should start moving on to other topics that I think we have.
Yeah,
because I've got
is-
about
Yes,
45 minutes here.
indeed,
Eric
indeed.
Roong on that point says a fair punishment for Juicy would be for Trey and Matt of South Park to write an award-winning musical about the case starring Dave Chappelle.
That's best.
I've
That's
watched
That'd be
that.
hilarious.
I'd watch the hell out of that.
Let's see here. What do we got next here? Gotta
Yeah.
scroll up. Taker says, is locking Juicy up with real men really punishment? Well, they'll have him in a separate. I know you're joking, but
Yeah.
he'll be in a. If he does actually sit some time, he'll be in a completely separate area. They're not going to let him be with the normal population. He'll get his ass kicked on a daily basis.
Yeah, no, he's gonna and he'll get his ass
Among
kicked
other
actually by
things
a-
he'll do to his ass on a daily basis.
I didn't want to say that, Andre.
yeah.
But hey.
but you know, and actually, no, like as Dave Chappelle says, there's a lot of anger, sort of sublimated anger in the Black community about this, right? And you know, that's what Chappelle was talking about, which is that there's an embarrassment that he's taking real issues. I mean, I don't believe this is a racist country, but there are racial incidents. They happen. It's
Yeah.
part of human condition, and they are incidents. And there are people that have experienced bigotry, and there are going to be people in the prison system that have experienced it. It'll be like, yeah, you fake that. This is what happened to me and my brother when I was like, and it's not going to go well for him to be in the general population.
Mhm.
Yeah.
May I comment on this,
Yes.
gentleman?
Yes.
Conrad's super chat.
Go ahead
for
and read it while you're
$5.
at it, because we haven't even read
Yeah.
it yet. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Conrad, thank you for the $5 super chat. Watch League of Legends Arcane on Netflix. It's the new gold standard of video game based TV shows. Would love to know your thoughts on it. Conrad, I love Arcane, League of Legends on Netflix. I think it's one of the best animes that have come out this year. I think it's entertaining. Anybody who hasn't seen it absolutely has to go ahead and watch Arcane. You don't have to have seen the video game in order to enjoy this story. It is compelling. It has compelling characters. The story is great. The animation is beautiful. Everything about it is so good. Absolutely, I love it. And I want to know if you three have seen it. What are your thoughts of Arcane?
Not seen it, so I have no thoughts on it.
I have not seen it, but your passion has made me want to see it now.
You have to see it. It's so wonderful. The storyline, the music, even they used Imagine Dragons to do some of the story. It's steampunk.
Cool.
It reminds me of BioShock Infinite. I just love
You
this.
had me at steampunk, so I'll check it out.
Oh, you will love it. You will love it. It's just so incredibly done. The characters are beautiful. That just everything about it. I can't say enough about it. I could speak about it all day long. It's absolutely. And from what I saw an article that said that it had even more views than The Mandalorian. This particular, I'm surprised it's not on the top 10 list on Netflix. But I have to say, it's an incredible series, and you know, it's really, you're not going to waste your time watching it. Please do watch it. You're going to love it.
It's great.
And with that, we have another topic to get to here. So this is the final super chat we'll do for right now, which actually ties us right into the next topic. Cristian Coralejo says for $5, thank you so much. Hail Andre the Giant. You know, I've been told that so many times because I'm quite a tall guy. Tom the Tank Engine.
He's unstoppable.
Sage
That's a good word.
Pasha, and Rrrr, the lovely.
Oh.
I always love your takes, especially on the Disney power struggle. And with that, we do have a Disney topic today, as well as promised in the title. Tom, if you would be so kind as to bring up the Deadline Hollywood article that is in the private chat. because this first started as a rumor a couple of days back from a lesser website, namely about a casting for the Acolyte. This, then, of course, would be the Leslie Headland series on Disney Plus within the Star Wars universe, which is a tie-in with the High Republic.
Hey. That's
like
former Weinstein assistant Leslie Headland.
That's the one. That's the one.
The keeper of the secrets.
The enabler. The
keeper of the
enabler, the
secrets.
one who made the phone calls and everything, and absolutely had part of it. But yeah, we're not going to incriminate ourselves too much right there. But anyway, the story was later picked up by the trades, and one example here then is from Deadline Hollywood, which reads, "The Acolyte, Amandla Stenberg to lead Disney Plus Star Wars series." And then it says, Amandla Stenberg. That name is just hard for me because it's part Swedish with something weird in front there. Will join the Star Wars universe as the Hate You Give actor takes on the lead role of Disney Plus's upcoming series, The Acolyte. Deadline has confirmed. So it would appear that they have independently confirmed this with some kind of Disney source, which is why I brought this one up, because this didn't come from the trades to begin with. And then they continue, "The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era." Disney Plus described the series upon its announcement in December 2020. In the real universe of Star Wars, an acolyte can refer to individuals with Force abilities who learn from a more experienced Sith Lord. When it says details for her character have not been revealed, Headland will serve as writer, executive producer, and showrunner. Per Variety, so here they pick up information from Variety, which broke the news first. The Acolyte is set to begin production in 2022. That is some stuff about what they've done before and rep, and nobody cares. So, Kamran, what is your take on this? Because we have earlier heard rumors that many of Kathleen Kennedy's projects, and this is definitely one of those, are kind of like being cleared away. Especially those that are associated with the High Republic, to give free way to Jon Favreau, who now is said to be effectively running the Star Wars universe. And still, this seems to be in development. What's going on?
So I'm going to answer that by giving two perspectives. I'm going to give the perspective of what things appear to be based on this article, and if this article, if appearances are what they appear to be, then I'll give a perspective of what I think is happening. And then I'm going to give my speculation as to why I believe appearances are not what they appear to be. And that's my speculation. Okay. So my opinion on this, let's go with the official version of events that's here, which is originally a obscure website, Illuminerd, announced it, and then that Ms. Stenberg was in talks for a role on The Acolyte. Variety then went ahead and referenced that article and said that's what's happening. And now then we have its sister publication, part of the same company. We have Deadline, which is saying it's confirmed. We don't know who it's confirmed with. Variety said it was not able to get confirmation from Lucasfilm or Disney. All the Deadline says it's confirmed, so we don't know who they confirmed it with, and it's interesting that they have not indicated where this confirmation is coming from. But let's just go with the surface level of events of that this is actually happening, and Ms. Sternberg has signed a contract or is about to sign a contract for this. Okay, so in that scenario, what it is people have speculated that even if Ms. Kennedy has been largely pushed out, that as part of her settlement, which has allowed her to remain possibly for 3 years, for who knows, as Thomas said, she's going to leave whenever she good and ready for it, which may very well be true. But let's say that whatever her agreement is may very well allow her to have at least continued development of certain projects. We know she seems to still be involved in Indiana Jones. I don't think that's a controversial statement, right? Even though that's been delayed for 1 year mysteriously. And then this project, which we know is from her acolyte, from her apprentice, Miss Leslie Headland, that she's been announcing for several years. is something that's important to her. And so she may have had a contractual carve out saying, all right, I will let Jon Favreau, assuming that those stories are true, and I believe them to be true, that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni can run TV and the movies, but you're going to give me my thing here, right? Okay. So if that is the contractual understanding, then she certainly may feel free to move forward and make certain cast arrangements. What's interesting, again, just looking at the surface of events, what's interesting is if you go to the IMDb Pro, which is the sort of paying service of IMDb, which has more details than is publicly available on IMDb. IMDb Pro had not references until now. I see today Ms. Stenberg has now been added to this project. But the only names on this project are Leslie Headland and Ms. Stenberg, and I think an art director. There's no actual director attached to this project. There's no one else that we can see attached to this project after 2 years. And so it is very strange that an actress of, let's just say Miss Stenberg, she's worked on Hunger Games. She was a secondary character there. She's done a few things that were certainly promoted by the woke people. So, the Hate You Bring, things like that, that I don't think anybody actually watched, but they were promoted as being, racially sensitive things. And she's brought on there. And, she's a minority. She identifies as a gender non-binary. So she certainly served a box, but she's not a prominent actress. I'm going to be as straight as possible. I mean, this is not a name most of us have heard. I've worked in the industry. I haven't really heard. I saw her in Hunger Games. I didn't really think, who was that actress, right? That stayed with me. So she's not a famous name, such as largely we've seen in Star Wars, everything. Pedro Pascal came off of Game of Thrones. That had made him a global name, right? It was a name we all had heard. Gina Carano's a name we'd all heard. We have, obviously with Obi-Wan, we've got Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, right? So these are all names we know. So it seems, and everyone, casting Ahsoka, these are all names of people that are stars that are generally in people's mouths. This name is not in people's mouths for the most part, at least at this stage in her career. So it is very strange that without a director attached, with an unknown production timing, which is sometime in 2022, they would attach this. So what it suggests, just again on the surface of it, is that this is likely what we would call an if-come deal. I have had if-come deals. What an if-come deal is that you are attached to a project if it goes. That's the contractual. I've been like, an if-come deal is I don't get any money, but if the project sells and is actually broadcast, then I will be the head writer or the writer of that project. That's the contractual arrangement I've got, so that the production company can lock me in and my services in without paying me and without having any further commitment. It's all based on whether the project goes. My instinct is, since we do not have a release date, we do not have a director, and this is not a particularly prominent actress, that it is likely to be an if-come deal, where if and when we have this show on the air, you're going to be a character. In the initial reporting in Illuminati and Variety, it was not that she was the lead, it was she was a character. Deadline is suggesting she's the lead, which is, again, strange, because I don't believe that based on where she is in her career, she's going to make anybody come to watch this show based on her name. And so that's the surface level of analysis, which I think is, okay, this is a project that Kathleen Kennedy was allowed to move forward as part of her understanding with Mr. Chapek, and that she's made some kind of arrangement, likely an if-come deal, and that they're promoting this out. Again, it is very strange that if this were true, that it was first leaked to an obscure website in Illuminati or Nerd, and then it gets step by step into the trades. That's not your normal PR process. So that's strange. So that's the official level of analysis we can say, that this is a project that at least is in development, and they've at least locked her down that if it goes, she'll be involved. Okay, fair enough. Now I'm going to give my personal speculation, which may be wrong, but this is my intuition. Okay, and Midnight's Edge is very gracious for letting me speculate. And I wrote this on my Patreon. My speculation is that none of this is real. That is my speculation. Okay. My speculation is that this is a political game. I believe I have stated for some time my opinion that this show will never get on the air because there is no internal economic support for it. Certainly, if we see all these other projects being delayed in Star Wars, being rewritten, Obi-Wan has a new showrunner, all of these things, everything suggests that the current direction that Mr. Favreau and Mr. Filoni and Mr. Chapek and Miss Susan Arnold above them want is to make a profitable enterprise. You know, the stories that Chapek wants Iron Man back and wants to get rid of Riri Williams. I believe those stories because they make economic sense. You know, and so pushing this project, which to actually make a Star Wars show, is going to cost between $50 to $100 million. It's a lot to invest in Amanda Sternberg. Well, we don't know who she is, right? And we don't know, you know, this High Republic has not been particularly successful economically for Disney. You know, yes, there's still stuff in the parks that's based on that. But that was stuff that was set in motion over several years. So it seems very economically bizarre to me that they would actually greenlight the show. And I am of the opinion that the show will never be greenlit. She may have continued development deal where it'll be like the trilogy, the Rian Johnson trilogy, which will always be talked about soon, inshallah, God willing, soon I'll be doing it, right? But why then announce this name? So now my speculation is, this is my opinion. My opinion is that Ms. Headland, Leslie Headland, possibly with Kathleen Kennedy's support, possibly on her own, saw the writing on the wall that this project isn't going to get on the air. They may still be giving her money for development, blah, blah, blah. And my opinion is that she went ahead and made some kind of arrangement, even if it's an IFCOM deal with Ms. Sternberg, and had her agents leak it out because it was not something she felt confident could be leaked out directly to the trade. So she leaked it out to a tertiary site in the hopes that it would get to the trades, and it did. And the idea being to create pressure on the Disney structure politically to move this project forward, because Ms. Sternberg serves the kind of agenda that Ms. Headland has proven in her career she at least gives lip service to. We got a minority, we have LGBTQ, we're going to take these hidden voices and give them power, right? That seems to be her agenda. And so when you announce someone who is not famous, who is not a name, who is a minority and is LGBTQ, identifies as non-binary, the idea being that this would put Disney in a political bind, that it would force them to move her show forward, because to then cancel it makes the woke mob say, you canceled a minority woman, you canceled someone from the rainbow community, you have attacked us. I believe that is the strategy behind this, that this is an effort to leverage this actress who has no political power whatsoever, no fan power to push this forward, but serves an ideological identity purpose. That's why the articles are talking about her identity rather than, you know, her credits are at the bottom. It's like, oh, she had this little role in Hunger Games. She does. Nobody cares about those credits, right? But the identity is what they care about. So my speculation is that this is a political maneuver. And one of the things we just have to remember is there was a very widespread rumor that when the show was first announced in 2020, that it had been done over, it had been done over Bob Iger's permission, that he had not actually officially said you can go ahead with the show. That was the rumor at the time. I believe the rumor because I believe at the time Ms. Kennedy was in a very open struggle with Jon Favreau and wanted to, I believe, assert herself. And watching him overshadow her on The Mandalorian, things like that, she wanted to push her project forward. And I believe that she went ahead and told everyone in the press, "I'm doing this thing with Leslie Headland." And that puts Bob Iger in a bind, because how can he kill the project once it's been announced, right? And I think Ms. Headland, maybe with Ms. Kennedy's backing, maybe on her own, decided, let's do that again. Let's force their hand. I do not believe that under the current economic situation, the hand of Disney under Miss Susan Arnold can be forced like this. One of the things that I've said on Midnight's Edge is I am of the opinion that Susan Arnold gives Bob Chapek certain level of cover as the new chairman. She's a woman and she's a lesbian. She's LGBTQ. So it is easier for someone of that position to shut down a project that you were using the identity of a woman and LGBTQ as the basis, because she says, well, I'm not, obviously I care about those communities. I'm a member of them. I'm shutting this down for economic reasons, or I'm instructing my CEO to not let this move forward. I do not, in either scenario I presented to you, which is that this really is a development thing, they've made some kind of deal with Ms. Stenberg, or that this is a political maneuver that's not real, but it's trying to force the show. I remain of the opinion in either of those scenarios that this show will never get on the air. I don't think there's no economic reason for it. And Ms. Stenberg does not have the star power for them to spend $100 million to satisfy Leslie Headland. I just don't think the dynamics of the politics are there in either scenario, whether this is a real announcement or a fake announcement. I don't believe the show's ever going to get on the air. If I'm proven wrong, I'll come on here and say, guys, Guess my streak as the psychic of Midnight's Edge has come to an edge. I was proven wrong, and they're making a bad economic decision, because I think one thing I will be proven right with is if the show ever gets on the air, it will be a disaster for them. So I don't think it will get on the air. Those are my opinions. I'm happy. People in the chat, can say, well, Cameron, you're full of crap. The show's happening, and it's good. They're gonna get on, and Star Wars is dead. Fair. I don't think that's how it's going to play out. We'll see.
Yeah, I will just say one thing though, because
Yes.
On the whole, I am in agreement with your analysis in the two
Mhm.
scenarios with what's going on there. But you know who Amanda Stenberg reminds me of with her previous resume, and why there is absolutely no reason to invest that money into her, but why they might do it anyway. It's been done before to another very obscure and, in my opinion, no talent actress with a name Sonequa Martin Green.
What do you think of my perspectives on this?
I think your perspective makes a good point. And what's interesting is that there are other reporters who are actually staying away from this particular topic for very interesting reasons. I read a post by that was given to me by a fellow person who keeps up on entertainment news, where the reporter said that they didn't want to touch this article because they were afraid, or in the past had someone in their group who had made a mistake in using pronouns, and they didn't want to get criticized for that. And I thought that was very interesting. I thought they might have said, well, we're not quite sure, since many articles say she's in talks, or she may be the lead. They didn't speculate or focus on the fact that this may not be a definite thing. They were focusing on how fearful they were to make a misstep in describing her pronoun wise. And that stood out right away, because it seemed like the focus of the story, or the focus of this entire exercise, was merely just to pay attention on the fact that she's describing herself as non-binary, or however she chooses to, he or she, or whatever way they want to describe themselves as. And so, once you start to get into being fearful about describing individuals a certain way, that makes me wonder if the focus of the story truly is not necessarily announcing that this series is going to star this individual, but more importantly, making it known that they support or are looking at someone like this. And the idea that they're looking at someone like this means that, they are trying to project a certain image about their selection process. And so that was something that stood out to me. A very good friend of mine posted something about that, and it made me wonder about this. But also, in support of what you were saying, Kamran, a lot of the reports are that she's in talks, or she may be the lead, or this could be the person they choose. And so it usually, across the board, when they've been chosen, it'll say something like, this person has been cast as, or has signed up with Disney to do this, or what's another way they could describe it? Will be the star of, is something like that. But the word usage is very careful, almost as if the other reports are very leery of saying that this person is definitely the one, so to speak.
In support of you, again, the strange phrasing for me is Deadline has confirmed. Confirmed with whom? Normally, the trades will say Deadline has confirmed with, someone inside Disney, a source inside Disney, a source.
Disney has announced. Disney has announced,
or something it's confirmed. Like I am of the speculation that Deadline has confirmed this by calling Leslie Headland, who said, "Yeah, that's my plan."
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because Deadline is also the same place where the Acolyte was confirmed in the first place. So, I mean, this is like the outlet that Kathleen Kennedy and her ilk would use. And also, Kamran, to just go back to what you said before, if this thing does happen, I do not think that does anything to your cred as a seer, because again, you don't claim that I predict that this is going to happen. No, what you do, you provide analysis and readings of the situation from a business point of view, as someone that knows the business. And here you provided two different scenarios. And this is exactly what we do here at Midnight's Edge. This is what we have done, for instance, with our Star Wars coverage, like saying, here they are in that position, and these are the options available to them. We do not know which one of those options they're going to pick. We don't claim that we do, but if they go with that, then this, and if they go with that, then that. This is basically what we have done. This is no different. So if this series actually should make it to air, it should be broadcast. Then it doesn't have anything to do with your powers for an analysis, because there's nothing wrong with those. But it does say something about how much power and the true intentions of the people now running the show at Disney, namely Susan Arnold and Bob Chapek. Then it's time to question them,
Well,
and not so much the readings of the situation.
If this were to get on the air with Ms. Stenberg, it would lead to, I think, an important conversation on this channel, and I think in the fandom, about well, what is their strategy? You know, are they still trying to appease a non-profitable element of the world, of the fan base, or the alleged fan base? And why would they do that? That's why I'm having difficulty imagining it coming there, because I do not see this as a profitable show. Yes, at the same time, we look at things that you did your thing. We've had Star Trek, which has continued on a non-profitable path for several years, almost as if it's being compelled by forces beyond.
To the point where they even lost Netflix, who were like, "We're done." That's how. But still, they keep on pushing it.
There's other political factors in that situation that keeps this project resurrected. Tom, were you going to say something?
I think there's another angle we might not even be considering.
Okay, please.
Because here's the thing. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that Chapek has been playing a lot of 4D chess with a lot of the executives, because I agree, he has changed things. There's been an outcry. It's not as easy for these executives to just push things through like it used to be. And here's the thing. Let's go back to Bob Iger. When he first took the reins from Kathleen Kennedy, he said, "The buck stops with me on Star Wars." And things just kind of came to a grinding halt. Now, we did have a few announcements, and the Mandalorian trucked along and things of that sort. But now all of a sudden, here we are, 3 weeks before Bob Chapek officially walking out the door, and there's
Bob Iger. Bob
Iger. I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. And so Bob Iger, he is no longer in the picture. Now, Chapek may have been able to be somebody that Kevin Feige mistook and didn't realize how cunning he could be. But I'm not so sure that Kathleen Kennedy is somebody that Chapek can maneuver around as easily as Feige, because Feige is a little younger. He's only got the, and sure, don't get me wrong, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is something nobody's ever done, and it's definitely brought him a lot of clout. But it's definitely not the kind of clout that somebody like Kathleen Kennedy has.
Over 40 years, yes.
Yeah, notice all of a sudden now, when Bob's out the door, this announcement happening, we're getting this fucking video game where I'm learning a lot of shit about this video game behind the scenes here. And
yeah, that's actually a good point, because Iger is still in charge. I mean,
for now,
Susan Arnold doesn't step in for another 3 weeks.
January 1st, 3 weeks.
Well, here's the thing: is I'm thinking that Iger is somebody who could keep Kathleen Kennedy in check. I'm not so sure about Chapek and what's her face you just mentioned,
Susan Arnold,
because here's the thing: is I can see where, because Kevin Feige publicly said he underestimated Bob Chapek. We don't see Kathleen Kennedy out there going, "I underestimated Bob Chapek." I see her throbbing at the mouth, basically waiting for Bob Iger to be out of her fucking way so she can do what the hell she wants, whether she's really the orchestrator of this or not. Pablo the Dongle. Sorry, did I say that out loud? Yeah, that's who the real problem is here, and that's who she keeps letting run loose and rampant with his little fucking Star Wars group, okay? That's what's going on here, and that's where everybody's running into problems, because this goes back, and this was something I had heard back when Kathleen Kennedy had the power to greenlight television shows till she was blue in the fucking face all day long and make as many shows as she wants. But one thing she couldn't do, because she had to go through Bob Iger to do it, was make a fucking movie. Now, I don't know where that situation lies. I don't know where she's at with the power. And as I've said before, I'm starting to believe what I was told, and that was that George Lucas signed his own death note when it came to Star Wars, once he put her in charge, because buried in that contract somewhere is probably some clause where Disney cannot get rid of her, because otherwise why would he put her in place in the first place, and why would they accept her when they brought him in? It makes complete sense. She is there until she is ready to fucking leave, and there's nothing they can do about it. And I don't know if Bob Chapek has the power like he did over Feige to take her down. I think that we're stuck with some of this Star Wars shit, and honestly, I'm not so sure that the future of Star Wars is safe. I don't think, I mean, even with Favreau and Filoni, I was questioning it before, but now I'm starting to sit here and look at this video game, and whether or not this Acolyte show happens or not, it doesn't matter. We've got this point where Kathleen Kennedy is clearly not somebody like Kevin Feige who can be, put into submission. Because if she's putting this shit out there, she's putting out that she's been renewed. She's not going to be shut up. She's got her husband fucking retweeting for fuck's sake. I mean, you can.
She's definitely powerful. You have a very good
analysis. And I think she's very, very aware of the situation, or she wouldn't have had Frankie go out there and retweet that shit. And that tweet was to me, it said a lot because of how it was the tweet that it was that he retweeted, because it was specifically aimed at YouTubers and shit like that. So to me, I'm not saying there isn't any smoke here, but I'm just starting to think that maybe Chapek is in for a little bit more than he bargained with Feige. And I'm not so sure about this other chick either. I don't know. I'm gonna wait and see kind of thing with Star Wars.
It's a fair analysis, Tom, and I would suggest that if this show actually ever gets on the air, you will have been proven right that she has a lot more political power and clout that has retained into this new regime. And I guess that we're going to have to, like I said, wait and see what happens. I still am of the view that this is a personal view, that this is a manipulation game, that this isn't real. Because again, this comes from my experience of watching people propagandize on the shows that I've worked on and watching them, sitting in rooms where they're like, well, how do we get the audience to believe this, right? I mean, because I've seen the machinations, because I've been part of them. And that's why I am of the view that this seems to be a machination. And maybe the timing is because of Mr. Iger still there, that this is the safest time to do this kind of machination, to set something in motion before Ms. Arnold officially takes over. And now Ms. Arnold has to deal with any drama that comes from canceling this project because it's already been set, at least publicly, in the word. So I'm of the view it's a machination. It may be a machination that shows Kathleen Kennedy and her protege's power, that they may be able to end up wasting more Disney money because they may have, it could be what you're saying, Tom, that she has something ironclad in her contract that has kept her on forever, over this. It may also be, in my view, that there's probably some stuff in her is safe, that she has leverage over people. If it's the latter, then actually we might be in a better situation. If it's a contract, like you're saying, Tom, then we're stuck with her until she leaves this plane, right?
And that's what I'm curious about too, because like I said, if they had the ability to tell George, no, we don't want to use your treatments, and but what about, we never really concentrated on the fact that he's the one who brought Kathleen Kennedy in. So whatever deal was made with Lucasfilm and her was made prior to the Disney deal, and Disney must have said, yes, we will, honor that deal. And I'm curious if he didn't give her some kind of deal that gives her the first right to refusal to get out, because he probably had enough faith in her. And I'm not saying that, he's probably not regretting it now. I think we all clearly know that.
It definitely is.
But that's where I think a lot of this stems from, is he knows he's fucked. And so does everybody else know they're fucked, because they can't get rid of her. Nothing they do or say is going to ever get rid of her. And I think White Knight is right here. Chapek may be playing 4D chess, but Kathleen Kennedy is playing fucking poker. And she is calling his bluffs left and motherfucking right now. And I agree with you. That's the problem, is now they can't cancel this because it'll look bad. That's the problem you have. It's a Batwoman situation. No matter how bad it gets, they cannot and will not fold, because once they do, then that means defeat.
But you can't. You don't have to cancel it. You can Rian Johnson trilogy it soon, God willing. We still in talks.
There's another point. I'm glad you brought that up. How do you know this wasn't a negotiation? How do you know she didn't sit there with Chapek and be like, all right, well, fine, I'll forego Ryan's trilogy, but you give me my Acolyte.
And I said that in my first of the two scenarios, right? That we're going to go with the surface of events, that she already had this contractually carved out. I said that, right? And so in that case, then we may very well see it even get onto screen, to the damage of everyone involved, right? And so Yet I remain of the personal view that my second scenario is that this is a machination, and the best way to handle that is to just jerk it along for another year and a half. Ms. Stenberg gets on the work, and then people stop talking about it. I remain of the view that the second scenario, that this is a manipulation, is true. The first scenario, which is one I think you're closer to, is certainly one that we'll see play out if this gets on the air.
That's the beauty here. We actually now have 3 different scenarios that time is going to be the verdict of. It's quite easy to track this project and see what's going to happen with it. Because I do believe that's going to be telling, because I agree, there ain't no way on God's green earth that this series can be made and can be any good. It's going to be Discovery all over again, if made. It's going to appeal to some very vocal activists. It's not going to bring in any audiences, and it's
Nobody
really
will actually
just going
watch
to
it. Yeah,
just going to keep sending the message to the fans, the same message that Tom is afraid of right here, that because of George Lucas giving some kind of deal, then Star Wars is screwed for life and there's nothing that can be done. Now, I also remain of the opinion there has to be some kind of way that corporate can overrule that, especially now when it's been so long. But time will be the judge on that. And we will, of course, follow that in detail as events progress. Like, we've seen things both be announced and happen as well, but more often we've seen things announced and then not happen. That seems to be like the most normal thing to happen for Star Wars, so it'll be very exciting to see what goes on here. I do believe that once Susan Arnold steps in and Iger is out, there's going to be some tremendous change, because that is when Iger's plans of like limited contracts and everything really kicks into high gear. And then we'll also see the reality of why Kathleen Kennedy is seemingly on the surface exempt from that. Then
that's what I think. She's immune to that shit. And just so I just
but that's why I say immune. And we don't know if that's immune because some special agreement has been reached for this particular thing, or because she was locked into something else. That we don't know.
Well, and I think there's something to that, because let's just say, for another sake of argument, and I just want to address this real quick with the cocaine thing. Like, if I had cocaine, man, I could get so much more shit done. Like, you have no idea.
Someone's saying you on cocaine?
I wish I could afford
pretty relaxed dude for cocaine.
I can get so much shit, so many more.
I've been in rooms with people on cocaine.
No, I know,
they're rather hyperkinetic.
Here's a scenario for you, and this is why I think there's things that George was able to put in the contract that Disney cannot get away from. Perfect scenario. If Disney could, they would right now release the original Star Wars trilogy unaltered, because it would make nothing but money for them, hand over fist. But Kathleen Kennedy and many others have said, "Oh no, we're never releasing that because that's George's vision." There's copies of it in existence. I think it was Colin Trevorrow who said he went to a special private screening at Disney where they screened the original version of Star Wars. It's there. They have it. And my point is this: if they could, I know they would. So I feel like there's plenty of things that George was able to get in that contract, and he may regret some of them, like Kathleen Kennedy. And I don't think they're things that we'll ever know about. That really, that's why we're in the situation we're in. I really feel like that right now, because the more and more I heard from behind the scenes, it's starting to feel that way.
Okay, so now I'm going to give a Pasha prediction, if my second scenario is correct, that this is an effort at manipulation to force a project that wasn't otherwise going to happen, right?
Wait, so we have it for if it comes true.
If it comes true. So here's my prediction. If indeed I am correct in my speculation that the current announcements with regard to Amandla Stenberg being cast in The Acolyte are actually part of a political game by Leslie Headland and possibly by her mentor, Kathleen Kennedy, in order to force a project that I think maybe Chapek has indicated we're never going to actually put this on the air. And now he's in a political bind in theory, because you've now got a minority and a member of the LGBTQ community allegedly associated as the star. How do you cancel that now? If that is the case, that this is actually an effort of machination and it's being done on purpose while Mr. Iger is still there, then the telling sign of that, which I believe we will see after January 1st, when Susan Arnold officially takes over and Bob Iger officially steps down, the telling sign, if that scenario is true, which I believe it to be true, but if that scenario is true, the telling sign will be you will start seeing what we've seen now in the past with Kevin Feige and a little bit with Kathleen Kennedy. You'll start seeing some negative stuff appearing in the fan press about Leslie Headland. Remember, Ms. Headland is not invulnerable. Her association with Harvey Weinstein as his personal assistant for several years is something, and she's always careful to not talk about it. She says, "I have an NDA. I won't talk about it whenever it's brought up in interviews." And it's obviously her Achilles heel. But she worked with someone who has been convicted of rape and has been known for decades to be a Hollywood casting couch sleazebag, right? And so the assistant is generally the person that facilitates those kinds of encounters. And so she has that Achilles heel. And if I am correct that this is an effort to strong arm Bob Chapek to make a show that he doesn't want to make, then based on his previous patterns, that when he didn't like what Kevin Feige was doing, we started seeing things in the fan press about Kevin Feige that were embarrassing. Things like the Russos come out and saying, well, he wanted to kill all the Avengers. I don't know what this guy was thinking, right? And then even when we saw just a few days ago, after Frank Marshall retweeted that his wife had supposedly been given this 3-year contract, which still to this day has not been confirmed by Disney or the trades to my knowledge, then shortly within that, we started seeing fan articles coming out that that we had Patty Jenkins had a bad experience at Lucasfilm, didn't like the notes she was giving. That's why her Rogue Squadron was pushed further down and, in my opinion, canceled permanently. But that started coming out, suggesting that she's difficult to work with. There were even some stuff in the fan press that Ryan Johnson had difficulty working with Lucasfilm, and Mr. Johnson was the star of Lucasfilm, right? And so when that kind of stuff and just entered as rumors and people talking on the YouTubes and people talking in the fan press, that, in my view, was a seeded article in response to Frank Marshall putting out information that Bob Chapek wanted to keep strategically ambiguous about the future of Miss Kennedy. So if indeed this is an effort to strong arm Bob Chapek into greenlighting the Acolyte and giving her the budget and allowing her to hire a director and everything else that's necessary to actually make a show. Notice this is the only show where the alleged lead is announced before directors. You had, when you had, I guess in the case of Obi-Wan, we knew that Obi-Wan would have Ewan McGregor, but it was immediately announced that this would be led by this major director, who's Oscar-winning director. That was how the project was announced to the world. That's how all these projects, Mandalorian, we're going to have Pedro Pascal, and we're going to have Jon Favreau leading it. So suddenly have a not well-known actress as a star without any other selling point being leaked out there is very unusual, and certainly doesn't advance this as a sales information, and advances it as a manipulation information, in my opinion. So we're going to start seeing, if that is true, Ms. Headland's reputation is going to start getting some negative information in the fan press after January 1st. If indeed that starts happening, if we start seeing people saying, well, Leslie Headland did this with Harvey Weinstein, and why is she continuing to be a powerful person? Because we've already seen that anyone associated to that is falling. Time's Up has collapsed. That was the official Hollywood effort to control the Me Too movement, and that has essentially disbanded now because the people involved with it were associated with Harvey Weinstein and were doing things to hurt victims of sexual abuse rather than protecting them. So it is, and if I were someone being strong-armed, and I was a CEO of Disney, and I was being strong-armed to do something I didn't want to do, and I didn't see economic profit in, and I wasn't compelled by a contractual arrangement to actually put this on the air, then I would settle the score by injuring the reputation of Ms. Headland, who has enough of an Achilles heel to be easily taken down in the current political environment. So if you start seeing that conversation begin in the fan press or even in the trades, you will know that the second scenario that I suggested, which is that this announcement of the Acolyte casting is not a real thing, but an effort to strong arm the show into production against Mr. Chapek's will, that will be the evidence that you see that is what is happening. If Ms. Headland continues to fly safe and unscarred and there's no more negative comments on Kathleen Kennedy, then it suggests, yeah, maybe this was an arrangement that she had reached with Bob Chapek, that she's going to be allowed to do this show. And at best, maybe he's going to try to delay it as long as he can until he doesn't, until this current actress has other work and is no longer available, and say, well, we're going to wait for her. But I remain of the view that this is a machination and not a contractual thing. And the evidence will present itself, I think, January 1st, whether I'm right or not, shortly thereafter.
Well, there we go. And
and I'm not even so sure if Chapek has any reason to be as at odds with KK yet. Like that's the thing, is because you got to remember when he came into the picture, as far as Star Wars was going, it was the Mandalorian, so things were going just fine. So like on that end, and I could see him be more worried about Marvel because Marvel is 3-4 movies a year, and they're generally billion-dollar movies, as opposed to Star Wars when we're lucky to get one every other year or one every year at this point. So I don't know about that. Like I said, I'm not so sure that she's as much of a concern to him as Feige is. Like I can see the thing with Feige that's been publicly kind of addressed.
Yes.
I'm just curious if at this point, because I don't think I think Hedlund's kind of, I think she's safe. I think beyond her big forehead, I think she's fine. I think she's,
you may be right.
I think she's the right sex. Plus she's more, she's LGBTQ. So I think she's protected. And I think she'll ride that to the day she dies, because as long as nobody else points it out besides us, ain't nobody going to care, Cameron. That's the thing. And there's so many of these other people. Yeah, there's so many of these other people that have connections with Weinstein that I don't think any of them are going to bring it up.
Correct. Like, but if it does start being brought up, then that is indication that she's not as safe as you believe.
No, I hope you're right. But again, the thing is, I know, because like that's the thing. She would be. Look, I'm going to try and say this without making it sound incriminating, but I have a hard time believing that she couldn't have been at least aware of what was going on with Mr. Weinstein, and at the very most facilitated it. Yeah. Right. That's the thing.
Isn't Gilsane Maxwell's trial currently undergoing some sort of hearing process now, or?
Yeah, but it's being redacted as shit for the public. So
yeah, we're not being allowed to see the flight logs, because they have the flight logs of every single person that ever went to that island. They have,
yes,
and they're just not releasing it.
As it progresses, let's see how heated things get, and and the response to maybe at some point she might be called in. We just don't know if she would be. I mean, I think that would be quite shocking and unfortunate for Leslie, but it's always a possibility when you're someone's assistant that you might have to be or be on a list of a person who either has to give a deposition or anything. And I don't think she could necessarily hide that, but I think it's going to potentially damage her regardless. I don't think she's going to be able to brush it away. As long as Gilsane Maxwell is in the news and there's a trial, it's always a danger for her.
I hope you're right. I hope you guys are right. I hope it just doesn't go away for her. But unfortunately, I think she's too padded. But what do you think?
Well, we shall see. We shall see. That's the beauty with this. We have more topics to cover here, but the beauty is that we have been presented now with three.
Okay, well, here's the next topic. Cowboy Bebop has been canceled, and it sucks, and water is wet. So, no, I'm just kidding. We'll get to that in a moment here. I just wanted to tease that a little bit. Like nobody is surprised at all, I think. By this.
But just to round out this, like we have now presented three different scenarios with their own predictions. The beauty is that that's all we can do right now. Now we just have to wait and see how the chips fall down, and we shall know that before long. I mean, if we've seen anything the past year, is that where Disney corporate matters are concerned, things move fast. So I look forward to continuing.
It'll be an interesting first quarter. I think I think we'll see what happens here as soon as Bob's out the door, and the Chapek and I keep forgetting her name. Susan
Arnold. Yes,
Susan Arnold. Yeah. Well, as soon as those two are allowed to, we'll see what they can do. I'm not even convinced that they're friendly yet. I'm not convinced that Susan Arnold isn't a Bob Iger plant at this point.
That's the thing. And I just wanted to say, I've been of the opinion, because she predated Iger on the board.
No, I get you.
That she is likely. I'm of the opinion that she's likely the mastermind behind Chapek. And I don't know these people.
And I've completely independently heard for years that the board has been most unhappy with Iger, and she's the one that's been leading a rebellion against him. That is something that I have heard completely independent of everything else. It's something we haven't really run
Tom
with.
Is right about this. In the first quarter, we're going to see what's going to happen, and the true nature of all of this, the true nature of the Sith will be revealed, right? And if I were Bob Chapek, if I were him, we're both bald. If I were him, the moment that Iger is stepping down on January 1st, I would go scorched earth on all of these clowns that made my life difficult for the last 2 years, particularly anyone that is trying to strong arm me. If I were him, I do believe he's a long-term player, and so his scorched earth will be a slow frog burn.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think he's not gonna do the emotional thing, because then he just create enemies.
Yeah.
He doesn't need that. Right now he needs to create friends, because that's the thing, is it's been well documented in public that Chapek is not making very many friends inside Disney. And that I will, and I'm in total agreement with you on. Like, he is clearly trying to change things, but I think you have a lot of people were very happy living under Bob Iger's Disney, where they were able to go willy-nilly spending $200-300 million on a movie, to give us the Haldo maneuver. So
Yeah.
So the first quarter is going to be where I think we're going to be doing a lot of videos talking about the repercussions. I think the first quarter is going to be revealing to us the future of Disney, and I hope it is the future that I believe it is. If it is the darker future, then we're going to have to deal with that, and Disney's going to lose money.
Yeah. But we're going to gain some views, so it all goes up in the end. But yeah, we have a few super chats. We have some classic super chats. I'm going to do.
We have some member chats
first
as well in the private chat here too.
Yeah, and then I need to leave in about 15 minutes or so. So if there's any ones that I need to address,
we should probably try.
Tom, we'll run through it real quick, and then because there's something interesting. Because Tom, there's actually more to it, to the Cowboy Bebop cancellation. But I'm going to run through a couple of super chats.
I know. I was being facetious, but yeah.
Spider Unlimited said, Andre, what is the moonshine you drink? Well, all I will say about that is the kind that you don't get in stores. And that's one classic there. And also it's 96%. And Valiant Renegade, our good friend, said, and West Side Story off to an abysmal box office start, I'm very sorry to say. 100 million Spielberg vanity project.
Yeah,
Yikes.
it looks like, I mean, the Thursday numbers were 800,000, I believe. That's like Dear Evan Hansen did that kind of numbers on its Thursday. I think this is heading for a bomb, and our friend Paulie at Latino Slant liked the movie, so I think it's unfortunate.
I've heard some positive reviews, but here's my thing with this. I think that there was too much pandering here, and I think you have a situation where, and this is something we keep beating on, the drama of here at Midnight's Edge, but it's so fucking true, is that, the Hispanic and Latino crowd has been classically overlooked when it comes to entertainment. And I think Encanto, considering how little advertising that did get, proved that there is an audience there, as long as you give them something that's worth going to see. Right. And I think they saw West Side Story and they're like, oh, fuck that noise. Like, because Steven Spielberg's directing, it's a bunch of pandering, and I'm sure there was a lot of talk about the trans character and some other things that got out there. Again, that I think even if the movie isn't as overly woke, or it's still decent, and all these things that we've been seeing with other current projects, I believe the media's perception of this and the way they presented it could possibly kill the box office going into this. Because I think, here's the thing. Unlike some of these other things that we talk about, like Star Wars and, Star Trek and those, West Side Story has a much broader audience. And we've seen this with like Buffy and shit, right? Like, they don't understand that they hear us bitching about Star Wars and Ghostbusters and things like that. And they're like, oh, you're just a bunch of istophobe men. But once you fuck with something they like, then they will say something. And that happened with Buffy. As soon as they announced they were going to race swap Buffy, then that's when the SJWs came out of the woodwork and they showed their ass. And there was like, yeah, how does it fucking feel? So I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of that out of this, depending on how bad it is presented in the film. If not, you're just going to get the pushback that people didn't go see it because of the way the media presented it. And if that's the case, then that's sad if we got another movie that, people could have enjoyed. But I think West Side Story is just one of those movies that a lot of people hold very, very, very dear. And you cannot just go out there and go, I'm going to do this no matter who you are. I don't give a shit if you are Steven fucking Spielberg. There's just certain things you're just not going to be able to get away with. And I think West Side Story falls into that gray area of you shouldn't mess with it probably. It was done probably right the first time.
It's arguably one of the most popular musicals in American history, honestly. And it's performed in so many high schools and colleges. And I don't think any one of us has not been touched by West Side Story in some way, nor would any of us even dream about changing it. And I think that it's very different when you look at some other types of plays or other forms of performances that are open up for or more appropriate for experimentation. West Side Story is not one of them that I associate with changing something that I view as a nearly perfect musical.
Yeah.
Well, and we saw what happened with In the Heights, which I hadn't planned to go see because the marketing had made it look like it was going to be some kind of minorities against the white man thing. I don't even know why they did that marketing, and because it's a story
very
about,
Dreamer-esque kind of marketing.
yeah, it was a story about Latinos in Washington Heights, and I grew up in New York. I know Washington Heights very well, and it is a lovely community that is
great.
changing. It is the culture is changing, and the movie addressed it. So, but Paulie said, you got to go see this. I said, okay, I trust you. And I was blown away by the movie. I was blown away. It was incredibly entertaining. And Leslie Grace, who is now playing the new Batgirl, blew me away as an actress. I was like, who is this woman? I want to see more of her. And so when she was announced as Batgirl, my reaction wasn't, I've got a Latinos. I was like, I want to see more of her. She's Batgirl. I want to see more of her. And I have to say, the marketing almost made me not see that movie, which I think part of what's happening with West Side Story.
Yeah, and I felt the same way about In the Heights as well. And I said before on this show and in some other shows that In the Heights had the best music I've ever heard in a musical in my life. And I grew up in New York as well. I am familiar with the Washington Heights area, like you, Kamran. And I think they did a beautiful job of showing the culture and all of the wonderful things about it that we should be celebrating. And just overall, it was just a fantastic musical. It's a shame that marketing can have such a negative effect on people's perceptions of what a movie is about, or a musical in this case.
Well, we saw it in effect with Dune and a few other movies recently, but I think Dune had a second breath in it. But anyway, you're saying something, Andre. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, we just have to hurry up because we only have a few more minutes with Kamran here.
Well, here we got one
final
for
super
Kamran
chat
right
for
on
now. Grand Wasu 42 said for €10. Thanks for a daily dose of dismal Disney. Both theories from Tom and Kamran have valid points. We will see how this plays out in the future. Nice that you bring Rrrr more often on. Yes, indeed. And before we move on with any super chats, well, we still have coming on. We have to move on to the final main topic of today, namely the cancellation of the live-action remake of Cowboy Bebop. Now, I noticed something really strange with this cancellation that has never, ever happened, to my awareness, with any other cancellation. Usually, when something is cancelled, if it's sort of like a regular TV series, it comes like in the trades that like this series is renewed, this one is cancelled, so you get it kind of like that way. You don't get like anything, nothing is singled out. It comes with all the other series. This is streaming, and when something is cancelled, it just isn't renewed. Like, for instance, the Marco Polo, it wasn't like any huge thing or something. It was like a good time after season 2 or whatever. The series is just a little bit too expensive. The financials aren't there, so there's not going to be any more seasons. That's kind of like it. That's a normal thing.
And I had friends who worked on the never filmed season 3 of Marco Polo. It was actually scripted. They had a writer's room. They had all the scripts, and then it just vanished.
Yeah. But in this case, it's the headlines. This never happens. It never happens that it's the headlines of the trades that this series is cancelled. Big letters on the Hollywood Reporter, on Variety and Deadline Hollywood. All of them are running in big capital letters. Cowboy Bebop cancelled. And so quickly, 3 weeks after it premiered. This is unprecedented. There has never been this kind of focus on a cancellation ever before in Hollywood history. Now, I don't know that that's true, but I submit that there's never been this kind of coverage of a cancellation. Why is this cancellation getting such press and such attention rather than just quietly being brushed under the carpet, which is the usual way that cancellations of big projects that crash and burn happen.
Well, I'll put it another way. Usually they will, even if they do decide to do this, unless it's something like the joke I made earlier, like the Pauly Shore show, where it was clearly a disaster and they canceled it, like 3-4 episodes in or whatever it was. This, I think you're right, Andre. This is like unprecedented, like the way they're announcing this before the show has even finished kind of like having its ability to do its run on Netflix.
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, the run ain't done. It's 3 weeks in. With streaming, they usually give it time. It's not even been a month.
Yeah, this is kind of a bit
this
like
is unprecedented.
Unprecedented, I guess is the word for it. So, like, let me hear your reasoning as to why you think this is, because I have a slight theory as well, and then I want to, of course, your Cameron and as well. But
yeah,
like, I know you've been wanting to hit on this for a while, so let's hear what you think.
No, actually, I want to hear the industry perspective from Kamran, because what it tells me is that someone is desperate to make it clear that this was a failure and we are never to do that again. This is a narrative that is being put out there. Someone, for whatever reason, this I don't know. I won't speculate on what's the goal behind it. But when you have this kind of or with these headlines, someone is putting out a message that this was a mistake and don't do this mistake again.
Well, I'm very interested to hear RM's perspective, and Thomas said he has his theory. My perspective is very simple, actually. Anime is a threat to Hollywood. It is seen as a threat by the club of Hollywood that's still there, that believes it can control the narrative of storytelling worldwide. And manga and animes have turned that upside down. My niece, she's 17 years old, is a huge manga and anime fan, right? And she watches more manga than she does regular animation or other stuff, or more anime. And so it is seen as a threat to Hollywood's effort to control where the narrative of storytelling globally comes from, and especially because the Japanese are not necessarily a woke culture. And especially with regard to mangas and animes, they can often be very anti-woke. They often represent aspects of human sexuality and other things that are, let's just say, more traditional in their perspectives about male-female attraction, and often some bizarre kinds of attraction. But it is something that is seen as a culture that is trying to supplant Hollywood's effort to control the global storytelling narrative. And so there is, in my opinion, yes, very much an organized effort to try to make people think in the industry. This is a message for the industry. This isn't going to make you money. Don't spend too much time on this. Don't give this any more of an audience and a boost. It's not going to matter because the audience already exists. Like my niece, she doesn't care what Deadline has to say. She's going to keep watching this stuff. And so this is a mistake. That's my perspective.
Yes, and I think you make a very good point, Cameron. And we've already seen in some circumstances, in some articles that say that the anime was bad, and it's almost as if the live action series was going to do this correction. Let's correct the wrongs that were in the anime, or the anime did a bad job by this character.
Hubris.
And, we need to correct this. We need to make this right. But to be honest with you, it seems like they got hit on all fronts. And, for example, with the casting, which seemed to kind of fall apart, the costumes were not appealing to a lot of people. And it's, honestly, the lead female character, who looks so different and really is just an appealing, beautiful woman. This actress, who is also beautiful, they didn't make her look as good as she could have. That really was the problem. And it's true, even if her build was different, it doesn't really matter. This is Hollywood. We can make people look a certain way.
It's sabotage. This is my perspective. Whenever something is seen as threatening the narrative, they will do it in a way that sabotages its success so they can claim its failure. There was only one movie ever really made about the Palestinian perspective in Hollywood, and it was, again, made with a Jewish filmmaker. It couldn't be a Palestinian filmmaker, couldn't make it, right? And it was Miral, and they essentially made it, not a great story, so that so that you go, well, I guess Palestinian story narrative is, nobody really wants to see that. We just want to hear the Israeli point of view in these stories, right? Because they needed that to be the way it was executed, was to make sure the narrative itself goes away.
Yes, and even in I think it was a Kotaku article where they spoke about what Japan's response was to the characters. That also was very sad. But look at for one of the examples where they talked about years ago, there was an exciting idea of Keanu playing one of the characters, and that would have been exciting. Like Keanu playing this in live action, yeah, I would have watched that. I think everyone would have watched a film like that. But having that very nice actor take the lead and be the age that he was, look at what a disaster it kind of was for dear Evan Hansen. Even though we love that particular artist, and he was wonderful in the role in Broadway. Now, they went ahead, even after accepting that he would play the lead role in Dear Evan Hansen at 40 or however old that gentleman is. Now they're going back and changing the film to make him look younger because people aren't comfortable with it. And let's just be honest with it. I do love that actor. Was I comfortable with him playing that role in Cowboy Bebop? No, I was not. Do I have anything against him? No. But let's just be honest about it. He's a 20-year-old character. And this is what happens when you sometimes do things like this. You're going to substitute someone like that to do that. The outcome may not be what you expect it to be. And that's all that happens. Sometimes that will add to this culmination of some of the actors' responses to criticism about how the characters looked. And, the costumes were not necessarily the most incredible looking costumes for this type of story. Some people even have said that animation was so beautiful and so cool looking and exciting that it was hard to recreate in live action. But honestly, I think that the combination of all of these things has really led to the demise of this particular live action series.
And possibly the demise of anime adaptations moving forward, at least for the near future. I think in the longer term future, the economics are just going to force them to do it. But for the near term, they're going to try to say, nobody really wants to see this stuff. Let's leave it in Japan.
Yes.
That's a very interesting perspective.
So Tom, you had a theory. Let's hear your
well, just going off of what's going on with Netflix, let's go back to the cuties business.
Okay.
Let's bring up Death Note. Let's bring up a lot of other things like that they've gotten a lot of flack over. And then recently, you have the Dave Chappelle situation on the other end of it. And you have the sudden cancellation of the show after basically the cast decided to use the Ghostbusters playbook from the start to promote this thing. Like, we're making it better. It's your fault you don't like it. Oh, you're a bunch of, misogynistic pigs for wanting to see and a character look the way, all this business that went into this begin with. I think Netflix is on a little bit of we need to fix our image train, because not only that, they're looking at the bigger picture and seeing, fuck, Disney Plus is taking a big chunk out of us. HBO Max is the little engine that could, and we have been ignoring the sleeping giant that Amazon is forever. Now we need to pay attention to how we're being perceived by the public. And something like this, after something like Death Note and some of these other adaptations that they've had that have not gone very well, I think that's going to be a kick to the nuts to them. And when you got shows like Cobra Kai and Squid Games and some of these other lesser, like, woke propaganda shows doing very, 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 very fucking well, like, I think that they're going to be paying attention to that. And sure, they were never going to admit publicly that Cuties was a disaster, and they're never going to strip it down publicly. But this was a situation where I think they needed to fix their public image on this one, and they knew how to do it quickly. And that was, you know what? The series is bombing. It may be getting viewed by people, but everybody who's seeing it is not liking it, and they have their own metrics and things on this on the inside. Plus, they're seeing the reaction to it on Twitter and the reaction they're getting from the critics and the audience alike. And like you guys just said, anime and manga and stuff like that is huge right now, right? It's huge. So I can imagine the first week or so of this being on Netflix was huge for them, and they saw the massive drop off and they saw the reaction and they paid attention to that. And I think they saw that between everything that's happened in the last year or so and the way that people got behind them with Chappelle and the way that things have kind of been turning, I think they're seeing this as, we need to fix our image as Netflix. We need to be the ones that this is the place to be for all the entertainment, because in a year or two from now, they're going to be struggling to hang on to a lot of those subscribers. So they need to be known as the place to be. And they're going to listen to their fans, or the fans, right? And I mean, I could be wrong, but I do feel like that is what it is. It's kind of like a big, like, we need to make this out there publicly known that I don't think Motu's going to get a second season, but I just don't think anybody gives enough shit to where they're going to make a public spectacle of it like they did with this. I think you're right, Cameron. I think Cowboy Bebop is such a big deal to people that they needed to make this a public apology to them, kind of, in a way. I don't know if
disagree.
I'm right,
I disagree with that.
Okay.
No, from my perspective, to me is like, yeah, okay, you messed up with that, and so what you can do, you can call more attention to it by doing this, because if you do it, like if Netflix were behind it, they only look even more stupid now. Like, they don't look any stronger for canceling it. They look even more stupid for having greenlit it in the first place. I don't see this as winning them any more faith with audiences. I see this is just like the final defeat of something that they never should have engaged in. I do not see anyone thinking, wow, this is actually, I feel more confident about Netflix now when I know that they cancel this. I don't see it. What they need to win people back are some projects that really will win people over. Some absolute crowd policers that aren't.
You don't think a
overtly woke or
buttload of
something.
people canceled their Netflix subscription over the show?
Oh, I'm sure that they did, and I don't think a single one of them is going to go back again because of this announcement. I think that's going to make them think, yeah, look how bad it was. I don't think that anyone is going to hold Netflix in any kind of higher regard because of it.
Okay. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the streamers, because they're all running out of steam. I mean, we're talking about in the most recent, call that Disney had. It's Disney Plus is slowing down to the point of stopping subscriptions, right? And they're all reaching the point where there's only so much they can try to gobble up from subscriptions. And I think this is going to be a moment of actually consolidation of streaming in the next couple of years. It'll be actually interesting to see when Zaslav takes over Warner's, how that affects HBO Max, because Discovery Plus is a very successful streaming service and it's expanding, right? And so it's just, I think we're going to have a movement now that streaming, the only way it can survive is to give the audience what it wants, even more so than theatrical films.
Yeah, indeed. So it'll be interesting.
No, and I totally see what you're saying, Andre. I mean, but at the
yeah,
same
because
time,
what I mean, like, if it was Netflix, they would have put out a public statement. If it was them, they would have made a statement saying that, yeah, we see. They would have done what they did on Sonic the Hedgehog. Then they would have. If it was them, they would have gone. They was like, yeah, we see the response.
Okay, so here's the other side then. The people behind the show are putting it out there because it happened, and they're trying to get people to rally behind it, and it ain't going to happen. That's the other scenario then, Andre, I guess, that you got here, because otherwise, I mean, Netflix has got to fix its image right now. I think,
and this ain't the way of doing it. If they had gone
I don't know
some kind of public statement saying that, yeah,
okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
We hear the reaction. Like they did with Sonic the Hedgehog. That was the way to do it. They went out and they understood the reaction. They listened to the audience and they made corrections there on out. There's nothing of this here. This is like just, we have gotten word that it's cancelled. That doesn't look good on Netflix, because now it looks like they behind the show on top of everything else.
Well, then that's the people behind the show trying to rally like an Expanse type of saving the show, and it ain't going to happen.
No, far from it.
And that's why I think Kevin Smith is out there going, I hope for a season 2. It's because he knows that shit ain't in the bag yet, and they probably told him that.
It's not in the bag, obviously, and he may be hoping for some kind of like Expanse.
Ain't gonna happen. I don't think anybody.
Well, that ain't gonna happen. But
I'll put it to you this way: nobody even gives a shit enough to fucking practically pirate that crap. I shit you not. Like, I go and look at the numbers sometimes, and that's how I gauge a lot of popularity of shows, because I'll tell you, if people want to see it, it is pirated like crazy, and you'll see how many people are pirating it, how many people are whatever. There's literally, and I shit you not, in the single digits of people having Motu revelations out there. Nobody gives a shit about this fucking show. It is such a minimal thing. So Kevin going like, it's the talk of the town, and everybody's like, bullshit. Who's watching it, Kevin? Your mom? Because that's about it. You and Ted Biaselli. That's about it. Nobody else is watching the show. Anyway, we got to keep moving.
We
What
got
were
to
you
keep moving.
saying?
I'm going to be leaving in a few minutes. I saw a couple of super chats with my name fly across the screen. If you want to address those, and then I have to step down probably in about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, I shall take a look and see what we have here behind the scenes. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
And then we are going to go through every
Here's
last
one
super
from Michael
chat here
Miller
as
for
well.
Cameron that says, "Can you explain this phenomenon of fans are wrong for wanting better?"
Well,
I
that
think he's
phenomenon.
referring to the studios feeling that way, I think. But yeah,
Or at least certain people in the studios,
Right,
what I
right,
call
right.
the club, right? The Hollywood elites, right? It is a phenomenon that we've obviously witnessed. I would suggest, and this is because we've been mired in this war for content, for good content, for about 5 years now. We're mired in it. I think that as a result of that, it's hard for us to understand that this perspective you're talking about is not the norm in Hollywood historically. And I hope and I expect in the near future it will return to the norms. The norms have always been this is a business, right? Yeah, they've always wanted to put their political ideologies in there, but it's just general sort of liberalism and stuff like that, But it's at the end of the day, money has always talked. The bizarre phenomenon that we've experienced, really starting in 2016 with Ghostbusters 2016 and going on with the Star Wars movies and with The Last Jedi. I mean, I think The Force Awakens wasn't a woke movie. It's just a remake that wasn't very well thought out. But The Last Jedi was an intentional attack on fans. It was intended to be. I think the director was clear about that. And I think that was linked to a very unique political moment when a certain individual got elected president, and Hollywood had a panic attack because they didn't see it coming, and they believed that at least they convinced themselves that the nation was about to become 1939 Germany, right? And so they convinced themselves that they had to change the national and global narrative to save us all from the rise of fascism. They convinced themselves that. And so it was very done in a very ugly, ham-fisted, and stupid way where they put all these stories out without, poorly thought out, bad stories, minority characters being pushed forward without any character, just to be there as an identity purpose. And so all of that was a conglomeration of events where they felt they had lost control of a narrative that they didn't understand. And so now I think we are coming out of that drunken sailor moment where we're getting the hangover. We're in the hangover moment. But I think the damage is actually deeper to the fan base. And this is a conversation, Tom, that we just had a few days ago on toxic femininity, Midnight broadcast, and RM, you weren't there for that, which is that I think my friend Nina was saying that, even all the hope I was giving for the future, she was very badly hurt. And Thomas said this, that he's been really scarred by this. I think that's a very deep phenomenon in the fan base, that what happened in the last 5 years has made us lose faith in entertainment that we're being given. And that's certainly dangerous for Hollywood, because that means we're not going to come back, as many people, as Nina said, she doesn't want to come back, right? And so this is going to be a scar that's going to last for a while. And every time we have something that looks like a step backwards, like this announcement with regard to the Acolyte, that scar is going to be ripped open again, and it's raw again, and we're going to be angry again, and it's going to push us away again. But I'm going to still say that this is an abnormal moment that we are pulling out of. I just received a text from our good friend Paulie, from Latino Slant, where he was pointing out that there was a major a Hispanic cultural group announced today that it would no longer use Latinx because it was an offensive term. And so now Hollywood has to face that. As I'm saying, I'm witnessing my fellow screenwriters now going off of the term Latinx and going back to Latino. We're seeing it more and more. The trades are using that. It's because they're realizing that's not what this audience wants, and it's driving the audience away. That is an actual change that is happening that I'm witnessing with my eyes. But again, the pain of what we're going through means none of it is changing. It's just Captain Kennedy's there forever, and it's always going to be bad stuff that's not going to be profitable. There's going to be some of that crap still because it's in motion, right? But I do believe a change is coming. So I'm urging you all to put the bandage on and keep moving forward.
Yeah, and the remaining questions for you, Cam, we have in the private chat. TNEL89 says, I grew up in New York as well. Kamran and Rrrr, huzzah. Matthew W says, Kamran, why not just dissolve Lucasfilm and move the IP into Disney Studios proper? Wash away all the garbage all at once.
And I think that would be a move that's even more extreme than trying to oust Miss Kathleen Kennedy and humiliate her, right? It's ending a brand. It's ending a brand. Lucasfilm has been a brand since Star Wars. At least it's been a global brand since then. I don't know if he did American Graffiti under that brand.
I think American Graffiti and THX might have even had that moniker. But yeah, as far as like being a major player.
And so for us, we all see the glittering Lucasfilm thing. It used to give me it used to give me chills when I would see it, right? I don't have those feelings anymore. But I don't think that corporation, that brand is going to be disassembled, and I don't think it's in their interest to do that. So they just have to try to fix it, and it's going to take some time because of the things that we've talked about. There's a lot of damage there.
Yeah, and then we had Rod Thunderheart, who says, "Hail Andre, Tom, Rrrr, and Kamran. Cam, I don't always comment, but appreciate your Patreon post, sir. I'm quite hyped for the new Sonic movie. Yes, everyone, go check out Kamran's Patreon.
Yep.
The link for that is in the description. There's
and that's where I give my conspiracy theories without any hesitation."
So exactly. And Mags says for $5, exactly, Kamran. In the age of social media, we are getting disrespected and hurt in real time. It will take years, if any, to gain our trust back.
That's fair. That's fair. But I'm going to be the voice of regaining that trust. I don't think anyone is benefiting from us being in a state of constant negative expectation. I think that will lead, if we don't come see Ghostbusters Afterlife, if we don't come support things we care about, they're going to be like, all right, I guess there is no audience for anything. And so I'm just going to go back to making the crap that we want if nobody's going to watch it.
Yeah. And Mr. Tickle Trunk said for $2 Canadian, "Chat loves your face too, Kamran."
I'll take that. Thank you very kindly.
Yeah. And with that, I believe we are caught up on Super Chats for Kamran, unless something came up on screen.
Did we get this one from Matthew W?
I addressed it.
We did this one? Okay.
Yes, we got that one.
Okay.
We got that one.
I'm just double checking.
We got it. Yeah.
Well, so Andre, I want to thank you again for having me on as a guest here, and letting me share my speculations. Many of those speculations have surprisingly come true, and that's why I've got a little bit of reputation. I'm a human being. I'm not going to be right about everything, but I've seen enough of this town to have a vibe about certain things. So, and I thank you for letting me share my speculations here on this channel again. I thank you, Tom, for never being afraid to challenge me, because like I said, I'm just a guy and I don't have all the information. You have information that I don't. I think I have some information other people don't, and that's how we come to some maybe understanding what's happening here. And I just thank you for always bringing such incredible grace and dignity and a centering energy to this, because you got a bunch of guys, we can all fight it out here, but you keep us centered, and that's, I think, the greatest grace of the feminine energy. So thank you for that.
And that is also
thank you for the kind words.
That we can have a discussion. We don't always have to agree on everything, and we can bring up different perspectives, but that's important. We can have the conversation and we can have the disagreements. Yeah. And we can move forward afterwards.
A lot of people are talking about the Star Wars game. Did you see the trailer for that, Cameron, or not?
I haven't seen the trailer, but I understand it's set in this High Republic world. So that High Republic, it's a dying brand, but it's not a dead brand, regrettably, unfortunately. But again, keep in mind, these are things. A game takes a long. I've written a game. I wrote 50 Cent, Blood on the Sand. It took a couple of years from when I wrote it for it to get into production, right? And so these things take a while to get made. So they're part of a train that's pulling in that was set in motion a couple of years ago. So we're gonna have to let those trains leave the station so we can get them out of our system. Well, I would disagree with Corsair Raven. They must all be fired. They kicked me off. The Flying Monkeys kicked me off of Twitter, so I have an evil eye out for all of them.
And I'm trying to see if any of our member chats.
Well,
we had one from Rod Thunderheart who says, "Hail, Cam," and says, "Cam, I don't always comment, but appreciate your Patreon post, sir. I am quite hyped for the new song." Oh, you read that one already. Sorry, Andre.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got all those? Okay, never mind then.
All right.
All of those ones we got. All of them.
I want to make sure I'm covering bases here.
So I'm going to step out. Before I go, everyone, look, please hit the like. We've got 880 likes, but 1,263 people watching. This has, I think, been a very interesting discussion. It's worthy of a like. And I think we presented to you some interesting scenarios that I don't think other channels are talking about. I think a lot of channels go from a place of emotion and reaction, and we're trying to analyze the possible series of events. And so far, remarkably, not just on the stuff that I talk about, but if you look at the video that came out today, Midnight's Edge, with Star Trek, this channel has consistently presented futures that tend to manifest. because it's analyzing them from a business standpoint. And there's always a few different ways it could play out. But this channel keeps, Midnight Touch keeps hitting it. It's had a remarkable track record. So please continue to support this channel.
Yeah, and that is why we have you on as well, Kamran, for your excellent business analysis. Like, that's what I like. That you don't claim that I predicted my glass ball that this is going to happen. No, what you do is that you analyze from the business perspective, exactly as we do here, and you do that in an excellent
and also
manner.
intuition based on experience. Just intuition based on experience. The reason I'm such a conspiracy theorist is I've been in rooms where conspiracies are being hatched in Hollywood, and I've been the victim of conspiracies where I'm like, oh, you just got kicked off this project by this, and this person who were talking behind your back and doing this, and you didn't see it coming. So that's why I have this conspiracy mind, because I've seen it, and I've been the other end of it. It's just, it's kind of how power works, whether it's in Washington, D.C. or Rome or Hollywood. It's just how power works. People playing games. And on that note, I'm going to take off here. Everyone stay here. We still have a lot to talk here, and you've got the lovely Rrrr, and you've got to stay. No one can leave when a beautiful woman is on screen. That's my philosophy, except for me, I guess, when I'm leaving. God bless everybody. Take care.
Take care, Cameron.
Bye, Cameron.
Bye.
And yeah, we got to see what you guys have to say in the chat here. So I'm trying to get back to about where we were, I think.
Yeah, well, maybe we can do the member chats first.
Let's do those, yes.
And then if you can continue with the super chats. I have to drop out a little bit here as well. Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple of member chats here. Tennille89. Oh, that's not a member chat. It was a regular. I think you grabbed that one already. The member chats. Master Clockwork sent in a member chat and says, speaking of Star Wars, have any of you seen the trailer for Star Wars Eclipse? It's a game in the works by Quantic Dream set during the High Republic. I have not seen the trailer yet. I've been hearing a little bit about it. I may actually be looking into it a little bit because it looks like the company that you brought up, Quantic Dream, has a bit of a history. But I'm not totally up to speed on everything yet. But have you had a chance to see it?
I have not had a chance to see it, although everybody's been talking about it, and it sounds very exciting. I'm eager to have any Star Wars game, so I'm really excited to see something like this come out, and I hope it's amazing.
Yeah, for those who actually care, yes, I'm not much of a gamer, and I know Andre, unless it's on the Sega Mega Drive, he don't care.
So that is absolutely correct. I haven't seen it. I have no thoughts on it. Nothing like that.
But yeah, so like I'm getting a little bit of info on it. I may be looking into it a little bit, and I'll see what I can do for that. I may have some other people help me with that, since I'm not much of a video game person, but we may have something on that very soon. Deleted Scenes, aka Steven, says a member for 9 months. Andre, Tom, Camera, it says hail, actually. Cameron, fellow mods, and chat. Well, thank you for that. And then Lord Trinan said, hail all. I have friends who think Sonic 1 Backlash was planned public stunt. I have my doubts. It'd be very expensive one and goes against Hollywood Reign. What are your thoughts? Oh no, I think it was a complete oversight, because even they even delayed the film, so it would have cost them a lot of money, and it would have been a very expensive.
Your friend is wrong.
Yeah, you just said it yourself. It'd be a very expensive public stunt for them to pull. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Smash that like. Yeah, sorry, carry on.
I agree. It was an oversight, as you said, and thank God they changed it, because this would be just another tragic story if they had not.
Absolutely. And then, okay, so I think that's what we had for member chats. Let's see here. We had, so I'm just going to start picking up on these super chats and try to get the ones we have not got most of all. Master Clockwork sent
I have to drop off for a while here. So Tom, you get the.
I'll try to get to these here.
Yeah, perfect.
Master Clockwork said, "Hey Andre, Alex Kidd the movie. Before you leave, if you're still there."
Yeah. Sure. Why not? I mean, of all Sega properties to make movies out of, that's not my first choice. But hey, why not? Why not make an animated Alex the Kid movie for the kids?
Sure. You know of Alex Kidd at all? I don't have a comment, or
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with it. No, I apologize.
You really haven't missed out. It was like Sega's.
I was gonna say, I vaguely remember the game
before Sonic the Hedgehog. It has its fans. It's very nostalgic, and if you try playing it today, chances are you're not going to get into it unless you were a fan that has that nostalgia.
It's a
I
very
tried
generic
playing it.
kind of game, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's their attempt at a Mario ripoff,
Pretty
kind
much.
of. Yeah.
And then we had Last Millennial, who said, I'm sure you all saw the trailer, and we didn't, unfortunately. Sorry about that for Star Wars Eclipse. What did y'all think? I felt that Star Wars magic, and I hope it's not trash. Well, I hope it's not trash,
Oh.
Last Millennial, but I'm
Wow.
hearing a little bit about the company and some individuals involved, and so we'll see what comes of that. But yeah, I'm glad for those who are enjoying it. I know it's a hot topic now. I haven't had a chance to check it out myself, but I will be looking into it. Maybe we'll talk about it this weekend or something. So sorry we can't really give you our reaction to that. We appreciate the support, though. David March sends in $5 from Canada and says the biggest mistake for the 2014 Ghostbusters, I think you mean 2016, was that they spent too much money. If they had spent half the money, they would have had a sequel. I don't know about that. There's a lot more mistakes than just that. And I'm not so sure they would even got a sequel had they spent half the money they did. What do you think? Do you think that even if they had spent, like, say, 75 or 100 million on that movie, they would have got a sequel?
I think and I think it was doomed from the start. It was something that was very forced, and unfortunately, it just wasn't a great film. It didn't appeal to a lot of people, so I don't think it would ever have gotten a sequel, even if they spent $20 million on it.
That's probable. I think the reaction was pretty much set that in stone. But David March, if you actually did enjoy the film, if that's what you mean by that, that's fine. If you didn't, then I understand what you're saying too, because I did not. But no, I don't think that there was much of a future for that franchise in that incarnation. And then Jeff C says, "Hi, heard you went to Comic-Con Special Edition last November. How was it? Any noteworthy? Newsworthy? Anything newsworthy that is affecting our pop culture from there?"
I don't believe there's anything newsworthy at the con. It was a much quieter, smaller con because it was the special edition, and they had to do the con, I guess, because they needed to keep that venue. But I had such a great time. I went to so many panels, which is something I never get a chance to do. And of course, I went to a panel that was called Romance in Science Fiction, Horror, and Fantasy. And I just had a great time. There were a lot of specials at the con this year as normal. And I got to hang out with people that I am normally talking to online, actually in person. So that was enjoyable. It was a great con all around. I even got a chance to go to the Masquerade Ball, which I never get a chance to go to anything like that, and just had such a spectacular time. I loved it. I also, another panel that I went to that I liked a lot was a panel called Docs That Rock. It's about upcoming documentaries, and it just really was all around enjoyable. I needed to go to it. I felt like I needed to have contact with people and just talk about the fandom. It was really therapeutic for me, and it just was so wonderful. So that's pretty much it.
No problem. So there you go, Jeff C. And then Samurai Vader, I'm really sorry we missed this. I did take a screenshot of this, and I will make sure we try to address this next Friday or whenever I get to talk to Cameron again. So he asks, Cameron, your 50 cent game is going for over $100 on eBay because of Xbox backward compatibility. What are your thoughts?
Wow.
We'll try to get his thoughts on that the next chance we get. I am so sorry we missed that when he was here. I would have loved to have asked him that myself, especially since he brought it up. I wish we had seen it. I would have brought it up then, Samurai. I'm so sorry about that. But I did take a screenshot, and we will bring that up again to Cameron sometime soon. Kaiju King Great Gabriel says, well, Detective Pikachu was a success because they stuck to the design from Pokemon games. Sonic took a page from that book. Also, hail everyone. Yeah, if you pay homage and you pay respect, fans will enjoy it. They'll even forgive a lot more of when you at least try to make an effort, I feel like, than if you don't. I'm sure you can agree with that. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I completely agree. And they need to keep striving for that authenticity, because this is so important to us. We want to see characters that look authentic. Time and time has proven again that when they deviate from that, we're incredibly disappointed. And, I don't think they can really afford to keep disappointing us like that if they want to continue to stay in the business.
Yeah. Melvin Belliard says I shouldn't sell myself short. I'm not sure what he was referring to because that was sold from way back when, but thank you for that, Melvin. I'll still take that and run with it. Mike and Ayers says Cowboy Bebop tie-in comic is still listed to release on June 26th of next year, 8 full months after the cancellation. There is hope. Monkey shit. I have a feeling that's going to get canceled if it was tied in directly to the show. If it's not tied in directly to the show, then yeah. So, I'm not so up to speed on that one, but I would not expect to see that if it was a tie-in. Paulus Plain says the saga. Oh, we got that one already. Okay, we got that one. But thank you again, Paulus Plain. Melvin Belliard also said I just thought they changed the look real quick. I think he's talking about Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, they reacted very, very quick. Oh, that was the second part of the other one, so we're caught up there. I just want to make sure we don't leave any super chats behind, because that's what we do here. Is not leave any behind, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Taker 610 says, I admit I am not up on Sonic canon. Neither am I, but I got a crash course with all the videos and the stuff that we've done recently. I don't know how up to speed are you on all that.
I'm not up to speed, but I've watched a very good friend of mine. His son used to play the Sonic games all the time through the years, for at least 10 years of his life, and sometimes even going back to replay other games. So, I think that particular IP is so important, and I enjoyed watching him play because it was a good game. So, I'm eager to see the films. I mean, they're enjoyable, and I think Sonic 2 is going to be great.
And I think you're forgiven, Taker 610, because there's the cartoons, there's the comic book series, and all. There's so much stuff that I don't think you're ever going to be able to catch up on it. But I'm sure there's plenty of videos out there that kind of break it down. I know we even did a few, so you can start there, and who knows what rabbit hole you can get down if you're a fan, or Sonic hole. Cameron's all-seeing eye says, greetings all, happy Friday. I just wanted to pay tribute to Cameron and his channel. Hail. Hopefully he sees that. I don't know if we remembered to get that right away, but I apologize for not seeing that. And then on the Sonic topic, Dash Attack says Sonic 2 trailer was fantastic. Love the direction they're taking. Little worried about the Halo, but we can talk about that Monday. I got chills hearing Elba saying, I don't need your power. Yeah, that was pretty badass scene. Let's see here. What do we have next? Scrolling through. Ben Wade the Gunslinger points out that looking for a masterclass, the most affordable ongoing masterclass on the internet, seek out Cameron. Yes, I'm promoting. That's right. We have his link for his Patreon. He does all kinds of stuff there. You guys can check him out and get all kinds of goodies there. Stephanie Janisek says, off topic, the sequel to Sex and the City is trash. Well, I would expect nothing less. Did you watch it at all? Are you a fan?
I'm a fan, and I don't like what I've seen so far. And I almost wish that they had left it alone, or rather than try to reunite everybody, just focus on one character. This didn't need to happen, but I guess they felt that they could capitalize on it, and it's not what I was hoping for.
Just what you wanted, kids. You were wondering what women in their 60s and 70s did with their sex life. Now you know. No, yeah, like really. And then didn't one of the ladies not even want to return? Was it Kim Cattrall or something like that?
Yeah, it just, to be honest with you, the spirit of the original series is not in this. And,
I almost felt like that trash.
I almost felt like they had dropped the ball, and it might have been the last film, Tom, that they had made, where they go to, I think it was Dubai.
That
or
was
Saudi
very
Arabia.
poorly received from what I recall. Yeah.
Didn't care for that one. And I felt that it was actually, almost disgraceful, but not at all the type of fun, light going sex play that we expect from Sex and the City. So, it is a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure that they should try that after that second film. From what I recall, that thing was very poorly received.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. What do we got? Did we get this one? I think so. I think we got this one. Yes, we did. Moldovan Allen, and thank you for that. Then we got, let's see here, Aaron Bennett. Make sure we haven't got this one. I think we did, but yeah, I agree. Seems like we're getting a few W's.
Right.
Eldrick Thrust Lord said Cowboy Bebop canceled Whiskey
Did do this
Indigo November. There you go.
Mhm.
Let's see here. What else do we have? I got the one from Mike. So thank you for that, Mike. We got that one. I think I'm almost back to the top. So then we'll wrap back around here. I just want to double check and make sure we didn't miss anything. And all right, let's see here. Gonna stop bringing them up on screen because Andre has them nice and collected for me here. So I'm just gonna go from there. And that looks like that's where we were. So then Megs sent in a $10 super chat. Thank you so much. And says, when it was just Netflix, it was perfect platform where all could go watch with different network shows. I can't even talk today. Now there are too many platforms and only so much money and attention to go around. Plateau, yes. Yeah. And we kind of predicted a lot of this, Megs, way back when. Was one of those things that was just, we knew it was going to get to just be like cable again, right? Like it was a matter of time. What do you think, Arden? Do you think
Yeah,
that's kind of where we're at
I
too?
agree with that. As long as they don't start to add too many commercials, because once we get completely, bombarded by this, I don't think I can watch any streaming, services if it becomes, television commercials every 5 minutes or so.
Absolutely. And I'm going to start from the bottom here because then we'll just work our way back up. STR Red Wolf says Sonic 2 trailer. Tails doesn't look like a Frankensteinian abomination. I'm sorry, Andre wasn't here to say that. Check. Jim Carrey, check. Biplane, check. Knuckles with good voice actor, check. We're seeing. I agree. I thought it looked pretty fun. It looked a lot of fun there. And then we had Brain Sync, who sent in £5. It says, "Hail, Andre and Tom. I enjoy every minute of your stream and all your guest shots. Shout out to Rrrr for being such a lovely lady."
Thank you
for that.
so much.
Yes, and you can also catch Rrrr on her own channel and on the Burnett Work quite often as well.
Yes, thank you, Tom.
Yes, Joachim Stark says FAA to award 15 more people with commercial space astronaut wings, among them William Shatner. That is amazing.
Yes.
And I'm sure he's honored. That's awesome. Glad to hear it. Marksman 117B says, "Do you think Sunrise, the IP holder of Bebop, set Netflix up? This failure has boasted the anime demand has gone up. Studio throwing away live show." Okay, you could be right, but I'm curious that's kind of where we were talking earlier before we lost Cameron. I was going to ask where this news exactly came from, and from what I got from Andre, it was just leaked to the press. So my if I had to speculate, if the company put it out there, they're trying to save the show. I think they're trying to pull a campaign and it just ain't going to work. As far as throwing the light, no, like if Netflix wanted it to continue, they would just continue it. Like they would know what worth it is to them. And the studio that would make it they would lose a lot of money if they just threw the show away. But I mean, I'm sure that they're making money on both ends. And that may be even something that's Netflix compared it to, because the original anime is up there now. And they probably saw, well, look at all these people who were watching this as comparison to the reboot. And that might have been another factor in deciding this. What do you think on this take?
Well, honestly, it's very special that you can watch both the original anime and the live action on the same network. Like you can go back and forth and watch one versus the other. They're both on Netflix, right? Right, Tom?
Yep. Yeah, at least the last word I checked.
Yeah, that's very special. Like, I think most people would love to have that option. But I do think that a failure for the live action series is not good for anyone. I don't think it's going to benefit anyone, and it's unfortunate that it ended this way. But to be honest with you, I think it would have been just more of a success if the casting and those costumes were different.
I mean, I watched the trailers and looking at the special effects wise and the production design and all that business, that stuff looked pretty spot on. But it was like, you're right, like the characterization, it sounded like, and some of the other decisions they made in that department sound like were more the problem.
When you take such a beautiful young woman like that and, kind of dress her so down, it's not going to create the fantasy that we want that we had with Cowboy Bebop.
Can't have the male gaze though. Rod Thunderhard is in the house and he sends in $5 Canadian. Says, "Hail, Midnight's Edge in the morning. Just wanted to thank Drunk Andre again for Motu Wake. I listen every time I need a laugh and hear Andre a lot liquored up. He's not here at the moment, but he might be listening in the background. So I'll try and remember to bring that up again if we have time when he gets back. But yeah, that was quite a day for us. I would say we were that was a bit of surprise for me when Andre was already kind of lit when we started.
And was that the first one, Tom, that we were all on?
I believe so. If that was the one you were on, yeah, because like he was drunk, and I don't think I've ever heard Andre drunk before, and he was like, "Yeah, this is a special occasion, or should we say awake?" And that's kind of how it started. And then Ram Bam 3000 chimes in here and says, "In Ree Cameron's point, Hollywood is super tanker that needs to get itself turned around." Yeah, I've said that before too. Like that's the one thing, and I get it. I want to be positive. I want a positive outlook, but on the other end of this, I've heard enough shit about people like Pablo Hidalgo, and I'm not so sure about Filoni's intentions. I do believe Favreau has the best intentions in his heart, and he wants to take this forward and do the best thing for Star Wars. I'm just not so sure he's going to be able to with the resistance he's under. And I hopefully, the better stuff prevails. But yeah, are you looking forward to what's coming up? Otherwise, that of
I am looking forward to, obviously the Book of Boba Fett that's coming up, and a lot of other things like the Obi-Wan series, as well as the Ahsoka Tano series. So I am looking forward to it very much so. And I'm confident that the Book of Boba Fett is going to be as great as how I found The Mandalorian. I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised. We won't get a Baby Yoda, but we'll get something that has the impact of Baby Yoda.
Baby Jabba. I'm calling it now. No, I'm just kidding.
Possibly in Boba Fett's past that, there's a lot of things we want to see as fans. And I think they're going to give that to us. And that alone,
Baby Sarlacc.
Yes, that alone is going to, I think, please a lot of fans out there.
He started as a little plant, and then he ate me, but then he realized who I was, and he spat me out. That's why I love the little Sarlacc.
Well, there's a lot of, you're kind of right on the mark. Some of the comics and some of the books seem to indicate that he might have had some special connection with it. But
oh Lord, I was kidding. Shit.
Or was able to contact or have some sort of way that he could communicate with the Sarlacc. Like it's very fascinating.
Oh Lord,
but
no, please, I take it back.
I don't think that would be depicted in the live action, but it's very interesting to talk about these interactions between Boba Fett and the Sarlacc and how on earth did he get out of this pit. So we all want to know.
I'll go with my robot chicken head cannon. He just managed to get out. Like that's all it matters. I don't know if you ever saw those, but like I don't have a Boba fetish. Like I've never understood the obsession with the character outside of he looks cool, but
I got more obsessed with him when Tamora Morrison started playing him because he's kind of hot, and I was like, this guy's hot. I'm like, he's gonna be Boba Fett. I was like, this is really hot. So I really started to like him even more than I liked him before. But I think that Tamora has brought so much substance to the role, and has had maybe the biggest impact any actor has had because he plays all the clones, and then his likeness is everywhere. We couldn't count the number of times that his likeness has been used. So he's been impactful in more ways than one.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was muted. I didn't realize
it's okay.
And then I don't really have a Boba fetish, but I hope the fans get what they want out of this. I have high hopes for Robert Rodriguez. I like what he does. So hopefully it's good. But yeah, so we'll see. Meg says, thank you, Cameron. Thank you for helping us feel respected again. Love, too much heartbrokenness. We have given up.
There needs to be healing, Tom. There really needs to be healing. I mean, this is disappointments like this. They really hurt us because we look so much and spend so much time in our lives in the fandom, looking forward to these IPs and the things we love. And then when they do things to them, it is a personal hurt. It actually affects our psychology because, I was looking at a paper where they said that when we go to see films, our serotonin levels increase. It gives us happy feelings. Think about how we felt when we saw Ghostbusters, Tom, and how good it felt to have those feelings back. That good feeling is why we go to our IPs. And what we're looking for, we want to relive those moments. We don't want to be disappointed. And so, we have been heartbroken, and we do need to start the process of healing again.
Absolutely. And then we had Michael Strelitz next, who says, Cameron, can you explain? Oh, well, this is when Cameron was here. Says, can you explain why they get rid of the shows people want and they renew the crap no one wants? Well, this is a very, very complicated question. A lot of it has to do with everything from internal politics to how much a show costs, how popular it is, if it's a merchandising
contractual
obligations. I think in this case, as far as like you have something like Cowboy Bebop, it was clearly seen that nobody was enjoying it. And whether it was Netflix, who I don't know if they put the word out there, it sounds more like it was somebody else on the inside. But when Netflix made this decision, it was fairly swift. And they knew that this was not going to continue. But then usually you have shit like Batwoman or whatever that just cannot end. And it's because if it does end, then it signifies some kind of loss to them. And no matter how low level the ratings are, they'll just keep it going and keep it going. And then sometimes the show just gets canceled because it costs too much. I mean, you'll have that too. Like, I know Deadwood was a show that was very popular, but it just happened to cost too much. So they just couldn't continue to spend the money on it. And you'll have that kind of a thing sometimes, or sadly an actor will pass away or somebody will leave. It's a million different things that'll happen. You have like the whole thing with Dexter where, there's internal arguments and somebody leaves and then now they're coming back and trying to refix it. It's these kind of things happen all the time. And again, it's such a nuanced question, Michael. I wish I could give you a much better answer to this, but like this question alone could almost constitute an entire stream.
It really could. And I think, a good portion of it is, as you said, Tom, budgets and contracts that get into a lot of these situations. They just don't have the money to produce a great show, and it might cost a lot. And the studios or whoever's funding it, they just don't want to put the money into it anymore.
Yeah. Then Michael Miller on the Star Trek Viacom side of things asks, with Viacom stock in the toilet, when they going to man up and fire the Dark Lord Kurtzman? I don't know. He doesn't have the greatest contract in the world. And at this point, they're just continuing to use Star Trek for the same means they did before. I don't think they've learned any of their lessons. This is kind of more of a Batwoman thing. They're kind of doubling down, if anything. But the cracks are starting to show. I think we did a great job on our report yesterday. I think there's a few things we could have hit home a little bit more. I know we got a little bit more reporting to do on this, but that's the sad part is most people just don't give a shit anymore. Like it's just kind of been pushed. Like, I know you've been hanging around Robert and he has just been blowing a gasket over Discovery. I don't even understand why the man's putting himself through this.
Yeah, it seems like he's a cutter, like an emotional cutter, like
right?
I'm gonna watch it again and I'm hurting myself and this is painful. I'm just gonna keep doing it. But I do want to say something about this. And another viewer did send in a super chat asking if there was anything at the con that had any impact over the fandom. And what I was going to say is, for the first time in a long time, I went to a panel about Star Trek. And in this particular panel was hosted by a man who does a fantastic blog on Star Trek. And he purposefully asked if there were fans of Star Trek Discovery. And of course there were. And there were specific fans who only like Star Trek Discovery. And I have to confess that, I listened to them and I was happy to see their passion about the series, just like with anyone who may be passionate about it. But there are fans and, they're starting to make themselves known. And, I support their interests. I don't agree with how they, how that show is, but I support them. But it is something that we're going to have to come up against, very similarly to how there were people who liked the Star Wars sequel. So, it is out there. And, I think that was very interesting to see. I certainly am not going to tell any one of them that what they were liking is wrong or anything like that.
Right.
But it's just not anything that I cared for. But I was happy for them. But you know, it at the same time I looked at the series, and even with their arguments, it didn't turn me around.
I think
but
you made the best point there, though, and I think that at least that supports the argument that I've always made, that it should have just been its own thing, and it might have been more popular, because
yes.
I've noticed that too. Most people who are fans of Discovery do not like any of the other Trek, which was kind of their goal. So I guess they're successful in that respect. But I think that's at the detriment of the overall fan base of the show. And you just kind of kill this momentum of ever having a future, because, yeah, until it gets back to form, you know, I just don't think it's ever going to have the base or the impact it used to.
Also, and I also wanted to mention too, Tom, there were fans of Lower Decks, like diehard people who were cosplaying as the Lower Decks characters. And I was happy for them. You know, here we are, we're gathering at the con. We haven't been here for a few years. You know, I'm certainly not going to, you know, have any displeasure just because, you know, they're enjoying it. I was happy for them.
No.
But, you know, there are fans out there. They have a
and I got
fan
friends
base
who I respect and all that kind of business who actually like Lower Decks. And it's just like, okay, you know, but again, I can understand to a point, because that at least has been the most Star Trek-y of things that we've gotten, even if in my opinion is below Star Trek or beneath Star Trek. But hey, it is what it is, and I'm not going to take that away from anybody either. Meg says exactly, Cameron. Of course, sadly, this is probably sent him when he was here, and he's not on the show with us anymore, but we'll still read it. And thank you for the donation, Megs. In the age of social media, we are getting disrespected and hurt in real time. It will take years, if any, to gain our trust back. This is true. And this kind of goes along with a lot of what we were talking about today and a lot of the different topics. And yeah, I think Hollywood's going to have to make a lot of changes and make amends with us to really fix this. And I don't think that we're ever going to get a lot of that, because it's not notorious for them to do such things, at least in recent years. But there was a time when Hollywood would totally own the bullshit, and they'd be like, yeah, we fucked up, and here we go. We were going to try and make it better, you know, and they would do that on a normal, you know, it's like, you know, like any business, right? Like, you fuck up.
Of course.
You
They want
tell
to make
customer,
amends.
yeah.
Yeah. And Tom, I'm not saying he is the only person who's ever said this, but the only person that I recall saying this as a producer, or let's say in the entertainment industry, who wants to have that authenticity to the story is Dave Filoni. In a documentary where he talked about how important it is for us to stay on, you know, and keep the story with what the fans are familiar with. He's really the only one I've heard say that repeatedly. So that's why I'm sticking with him. That's why I still have some hope there, Tom.
I hope you're right. I mean, the only thing with him is I feel like he has a penchant to do not so much what's best for the fans, but what's best for his characters he created. But we'll see going forward. But you know, we've had people like Joel Schumacher have come out and, you know, apologize for Batman and Robin, and even, you know, Robert Shea and a lot of people behind Nightmare on Elm Street have owned certain things that have happened there, like behind Nightmare 2 and 5, that were probably the least received as far as fans go, and even Freddy's Dead to a point, and certain things like that. And, you know, there's been other people in the past that have, you know, owned up to their mistakes and they've tried to make better. But and nowadays in Hollywood is never own up to that shit. And, you know, I feel like if they would, it would really help them out quite a bit. But then Paulus Plain here sends in 100 Norwegian krona and says,
wow,
when the woke wars ends, we as a community must be magnanimous in victory. We must be intelligent in victory. We be victorious with honor, with no showboating. Well, yeah, you're right to a point. I agree with you. But we cannot be faulted for wanting to celebrate what victories we do get. When I see something like, I mean, and especially when it comes to things like Ghostbusters and things like that, do celebrate, do showboat a little bit. But yeah, no, I agree with you on other things. Like when it comes to like, oh, let's say with this Cowboy Bebop thing, or even Star Trek Discovery and certain things like that. Like if there's fans of Cowboy Bebop that liked the show, I'm not going to pick on them for it. You know, I had a lot of this issue with the Miles thing, and I kept reminding a lot of the idiots who kept coming into my thread over and over and over and over again. It's like, look, I'm not on your Twitter thread. I'm not on anybody else's thread who's celebrating this. I'm not telling anybody else they can't enjoy this. I'm not telling anybody else they shouldn't enjoy this. All I'm doing is I put one statement out there and everybody lost their fucking minds. Right? Is really all that happened. But no, like, again, I have no I think no, we should never ever really like be that much of a dickhole and go out of our way to showboat. I agree with you there completely. Mag says when it was just Netflix, it was perfect platform. We could all watch different network shows. Now there are too many platforms, and now we're back up to where we were.
Yes.
So yeah, we covered this one already. So I'm glad I caught up there. And then let's see here. Let's go back down to the bottom again. And I know some people said that if you think we missed your super chat, let me know. But I think we've got most of the earlier ones now. Let's see here. I know Ben Wade, I think you thought if you only sent one, I know we read one earlier, but let me double check and see if you didn't send another one here real quick, just to make sure, because I don't want to miss any. Where did it go? Here it is. Well, here's some more that I can get to. I'm just not going to bring them up on the screen just the same. But I'm not seeing another one from you. And I know we did get the one, because we did get the one for ongoing masterclass. We did get that one, Ben.
Yes.
So I'm not seeing any other one other than that, Ben. So unless I just don't have it in the list here, but I'm sure Andre will send me whatever there was when he gets back. But I'm going to start with this one now and get to where we were. Brandon, the anime guy, sent in $5. It says, I'm so happy that Crapflix Cowboy Bebop died. A win. Sonic 2 win. Hail Andre, Tom, and lovely Autumn. We get great entertainment. I believe we got that one already. I know we got this one. Taker 610 pointed out, is it really punishment to lock Juicy up with men? Well, they probably won't. He'll be in his own separate area, I'm sure, but I get the joke there. Let's see here. Let's see. I think we've gotten pretty much everything I have here. Oscar Verlot sent in 1999 and said another thing that can happen is her past gets brought up. I think we got this one already, using that as a way to cancel the show. But yeah, I think we addressed that, but just the same, I wanted to make sure. I don't know if we got this one, though. Carlos Batista says Disney should either sell Star Wars or throw it to the public domain. Well, they won't throw it to the public domain. As far as selling it, I think they're a long ways off from selling it. I think the only thing that could do that would be
I don't know.
Really downhill, yeah.
A European or maybe a Chinese company would come and offer them $1 trillion for it. Would that work?
Yeah, maybe.
But I don't see any other scenario that I can possibly think of, Tom. Could you?
Not offhand. And then again, these are going, so I don't see that happening anytime soon. But unless there's some corporate takeover of Disney or something goes so south that they have to start selling things, and that's a last resort. And then again, these are a little bit out of order, but I'm just making sure we got everybody's super chat. Peter Spigelski said, now from Yahoo News article, Netflix's major anime adaptation One Piece is currently in production. I know that's one thing that you guys have been really worried about. I'm not too up to speed with One Piece, but I know of it. And on that note, Aoki, if I'm saying that right, Aoki 7 says they have the live action adaptation of One Piece coming up. And if they get that right, it could be Marvel killer, because One Piece is that beloved worldwide. If they mess it up, it could be it could have major negative ramifications. I agree. I think it will be a ride or die situation for them. I think that's kind of their last chance at this point after some of the moves they made.
Tom, is there a super chat from Primer?
We're getting to that one.
Okay, great.
Yep, we got that on the list here. I found a chunk of them here we hadn't got, so I'm getting to that. I'm just trying to do them in some semblance of order on my end. So I know it seems out of order for you guys, but it's in the order that Andre sent them to me. So you have to kind of work with me. And then we had James Esperanza, who said One Piece will make Bebop look good. Just watch. Well, if it's bad, I don't know. But
I want it to be good. I don't want one.
I think most people want it to be good. Yeah, of course. So here's to hoping anyway. And thank you for that, James Esperanza. Then Darren Hughes and Dr. Long Dongler. I got two empty ones here, so I don't know if They were just donations with no comment, or the comment got taken away. But thank you for the 10 and 99.99 pound. Would that be what's left over? That's pence or whatever. I don't know. I don't know how to do that kind of.
Pence.
Yeah,
That's right.
I think it was
Pounds and
right.
pence.
So okay, we got $10 and we got 99 pence from Darren
Mhm.
Hughes and Dr. Long Dong, respectively. I don't know if they said anything and it got taken away or if it's just a donation, but thank you for that. Luca Rocks says, saw the latest West Side Story on Broadway right before the lockdown. So woke, it totally killed the racial allegory. I also don't think the street gangs would have LGBTQ members either. Well, I don't know about the last part, but if they're getting that way on Broadway, I'm not surprised. I mean, they've probably been more woke on Broadway than they have been in Hollywood for years. But I mean, that's not boding well for the movie if they borrowed any from that version. And on that note, Tennille says West Side Story suffers for lack of Culture Casino. This is true. It needs more Culture Casino in it. Then Ben Mudick says, I think proof will be in Star Wars content going forward. If they're SJW propaganda, KK still has power. If they are good, then KK has less power. That's probably true. I don't know about the SJW propaganda, because here's the thing: I know she has her. She does have her propaganda she wants to put into Star Wars, but Pablo Hidalgo and a few others in that writer's room are worse than she is. That's my fear. So even when she's gone, I'm not so sure that the element is going to be gone. But what were you going to say?
When she wore that shirt that said the Force is female, a lot of, not just me, but a lot of other female, Star Wars fans thought the Force is for everybody, it's
right.
You can't, it kind of separated all the women, or anybody who identifies as a female from everyone else. And I'm like, no, the Force doesn't work that way, And so, that was propaganda-ish to me. Because,
well, not only that, it's kind of like them saying, oh, you couldn't like Star Wars before, but now we're making it friendlier for you. Like, well, that demeans any fans of Star Wars that liked it the way it was.
Mm-hmm. And so, that just showed an intrinsic misunderstanding of the Force. And there's a lot about the Force just in general as a theory, as an idea, as an entity. I don't know all the details, but I know that it's not separated by sex. So.
Yeah. And then Paulus Plain says, boys and girls in the chat, what was the fucking woke, I think he means, first LGBTQ plus characters you fell in love with? Characters with respect for all humans, characters with power and love. Long live Midnight's Edge's legions. Wow, that's a great question. Let me think. I always was partial to like Hollywood and Mannequin. I love that character.
Oh yeah, he was great. He was great. When he discovered that his character, the young man was talking to the mannequin, he was like, okay, I'm fine with it. It's whatever you need it
you
to
do
be.
You, boo. Yeah.
That's right.
No, let me think. There's got to be some other great ones too.
Yeah, there has to be more. I have to really think about this.
I always liked Lamar in Revenge of the Nerds.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Boy,
we have to think about this, right?
I mean, there's been some great ones, but as far as like pre-woke, there's a few. But I mean, there's been a lot in the 90s too that were just, and it's hard to think about it because then they were written as characters and you don't really stop to think, oh yeah, they're gay. That was a gay character. Oh, well, yeah, that was, because unless they're like really out there up front about it, right?
Yeah, and that's also very interesting in the sense that they're just so naturally entwined in the story that you're not even focusing on the fact that they are.
Right, exactly. I'm sure there could be plenty that you guys could think of in the chat. He did ask for your guys' suggestions, so please throw those up. In the meantime, we got to move along here, though. Let's see here. Spider Unlimited said Fox sold the unaltered original trilogy about 10 years ago, bought them for $50 a pop. Okay, here's the thing what they did, though. George Lucas caved in and released a version with the original versions from Laserdisc rips. So there were non-anamorphic, barely 480p versions as special features on a disc set years ago, and they look like junk. Now, my suggestion is get your hands on the 4K 77 and 4K 83 release. If not, the specialized editions are the way to go. There's also the silver screen scans. They're out there. It's not impossible to get your hands on these, and you can legally own them as long as you own the original copies. So, like, it's pretty easy to find them. But at the same time, I still argue that Disney would just make a killing if they just release them if they could. So, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but
I do not have anything to add to that.
All right. Well, then I'm going to move on to Corsair Raven's super chat, who says, I'm sorry she's ducked up too many times to be safe from being fired. I agree. And that's why I feel like there's got to be something in place for KK that she has not been shit canned yet. Like, even on a, like, kind of a, you know, even if they just kind of pushed her out in a way, like, and it was not even done publicly, like, she'd be moving on to other things or she'd announce her retirement. None of these things are happening, unfortunately, though. So, yeah. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, she's still here, Tom, and she's active. And, you know, some indications for me have always been where, you know, on the Star Wars side, where there'll be a documentary and suddenly she'll appear, you know, she'll kind of insert herself in the documentary and make comments about the, you know, the show, let's say The Mandalorian or whatever it is. And, you know, and she'll kind of, you know, it'll be a nice comment. She, you know, she has the right to do this, but by inserting herself, you know, it just reinforces that she's still around. So, yeah.
I mean, I hope it's just a lot of pomp and circumstance and a lot of bullshit, but we'll see. And then let's see here. We have Melvin Belviard, who sent in another 20, who said, I was just thinking this, and I wanted to know your thoughts on this. I've been surprised that Elliot Page, other than Umbrella Academy, he hasn't been hired for anything else. Have you heard anything as to why that is? Not offhand, but I mean, we're also in the middle of an era that, you know, things were kind of shut down and they're picking back up. So I'm sure if you can go check his IMDb, he's got something on there, perhaps in production, but we'll see. I'm not up to speed. I don't keep up with him. So,
you know, the last thing I saw Elliot Page in was before Elliot Page became Elliot Page. I think it was Tales of the City, Almasted Maupin's revisited Tales of the City or something like that. And then I think the Umbrella Academy was the next one, perhaps. But yeah, going from such a robust amount of work, not just in you know, in that forum, but also in, like, she did a video game. I can't remember what it was called, but being such a robust actor and then, you know, kind of not seeing as much, perhaps there just isn't anything that suits Elliot, you know, as an actor that he wants to do right now.
TV takes a lot of time too. So if she's shooting a show, that's one thing where when I always question seeing when certain actors get this announcement and that announcement and another thing stacked on top of another, I'm just sitting here thinking, when are they going to have time to do this shit? Because it takes time, like, and you got to travel and all this other business.
Long
like,
days.
Exactly. You got to scheduling is a bitch sometimes, and I know that's a problem they're running into now since everything was shut down for so long. That schedules are a mess, I'm sure. So I think that's most of it. I don't think it's anything like that she did personally, or there's like a vendetta against her or him, whatever you. Sorry, I'm not trying to.
And also the pandemic thing. I'm not supposed to say that word.
Yeah,
might have slowed some productions down.
I think so.
And paused things. So
I think that's a lot of it. And again, like if you're working on a TV show, your time is very consumed by that. Even if it's a shorter run show, like I don't know how many episodes Bell Academy is, but I'm sure it's like a 10-15 episode season.
Right. So, right.
Yeah, I have not seen the show yet, but I've heard good things about it otherwise for the most part.
So you haven't watched the first season, Tom?
No, I got a list of shit that I've got to get to that I just never have time for.
I watched the first season, but I have not seen the second season. So I want to check that out when I have time as well.
Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe if Elliot doesn't have any roles in the next 3 years or so, then I'd start to ask that question.
Right.
Yeah. Usually,
and her name does come up in the news quite often.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I don't think that there's any problem with their career. Valiant Renegade. I think we got this one, but we're going to grab it again. Alan Bergman presides over 6 studios. The one that does Star Wars hasn't gotten a Star Wars film in pre-production in 5 years. That's a problem. Well, I think a lot of that is because Bob Iger just put the brakes on everything for a few minutes there. And by a few minutes, I mean a few years. And I think he stood by what he said, that they were going to slow things down on Star Wars, and we only got the Mandalorian pretty much that entire time.
Also, I haven't heard, like, and when it comes to Star
Rise
Trek,
of
like,
Skywalker, but yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry, Tom. I haven't heard anything like any great scripts, or let's say scripts they're excited about, that screenplays for any films for Star Trek either. So have you heard anything? Like, no, right?
Well, we were talking about Star Wars, I think, here, but yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Star Trek.
Did I say Star Trek? I didn't mean to if I did.
Well, if I might be mistaken as well. But
we've been talking about so many, both of them so much that
yeah. We're interchanging them now.
Yeah. No, as far as Star Wars films, I was even surprised when I heard about Rogue Squadron. So we'll see. And that thing's going to be quite a few years off. So here we are now. Rise of Skywalker was the last Star Wars film. That was 2019, right?
December? Yeah, and it was December 2019.
So 2 years out now.
Yeah, and we haven't, nothing's really there. And once again, I don't even know if there was a script for Rogue Squadron, but the presentation about what it was based on was exciting to so many fans. So, that got us all very interested in possibly.
Well, if the news is to be believed, there was a script and it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
That's why it got delayed, is that they went back to the writing stage. So we'll see.
But the story behind it, I mean, was
with her dad,
that inspiring story was just really, everybody was like, wow.
Maybe that's why they're meeting resistance, is she is very maybe tied to the story and she doesn't want to change anything, and they're trying to get her to change it. That could very well be the point of contention they're getting to right there. That could very well be the problems behind the scenes, but we'll see. We'll definitely see. Grimzilla says Star Wars Eclipse game just announced and it's set in the High Republic era. I'm thinking Kennedy really pushing High Republic era because she thinks it's her best shot at a legacy Star Wars. Thoughts? I gotta imagine she's definitely behind that idea. That was one of her babies, per se, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I'm sure they're hoping anything sticks at this point, because nothing out of the High Republic so far has done very well. I don't know. We'll see if Cameron's right. And then we had some sad news from 70 Rock fan brought up, and I did bring up on screen before. We didn't get a chance to bring it up, though. But Mike Nesmith of the Monkees has passed away. He says, Mike Nesmith, the Monkees were a big part of my... he says, rest in peace, Mike Nesmith, sorry. The Monkees were the big part of my childhood, and the songs and show still stand up today. Mike was a lovely guy who wrote some great songs. I was lucky to see the four of them live, and it was tons of fun. Yeah, sad news today for Monkey fans and fans of music. And yeah, did you have anything to say about Mike Nesmith? Or
yeah, I love the Monkees. I mean, I've seen it on reruns, of course, right. But who didn't enjoy their shows and just the energy?
People say they monkey around, but
yeah, it was a great show, and I think that the chemistry of them and everything about it is great. Even when the whole band wasn't going on tour anymore, and it might have been just, let's say, I think maybe just the leader, I could be wrong. It was great. It was a great feeling, and I think their music still sounds good, which is, you can't say that for every type of music genre. So honestly, I think that we have to celebrate these great shows that we had. I still watch, sometimes when the show comes on, I still watch an episode here or two. Do you, Tom? Have you ever watched?
Oh yeah, I love the Monkees. They were fun. I was more partial to the music than the actual show, but no, they don't make stuff like that anymore. It feels like not like that. Not just wholesome, good fun, and just the synergy that they had in the era that they came from. And yeah, I mean, it's a big loss for music, and it's too bad. Sad to hear that this morning.
It really is a big loss, but I still, like I said, I still listen to their music. I mean, it still sounds really good, and you can't say that about every type of music ever made. But it's still fun, sing along,
absolutely,
good feeling kind of stuff, and I like that.
Absolutely. And then we had Melvin Belliard again, who says, as it comes to Leslie, be thankful her last name isn't Spacey or Clinton, because crossing them isn't good for anyone's health. I agree with that, and I think we're going to leave that one alone. And then Corsair Raven said the group should all be fired. I think we got that one. Primer said if locked up, Juicy might actually get a foot long. Oh
dear.
Ouch, ouch, ouch. Joachim Stark says, gasp. CK is KK. KK is CK. Kathleen Kennedy is Clark Kent. KK is a man. She sure wishes she was sometimes, it seems like. And then Iwiki, if I'm saying that right, I really apologize. Iwiki7, if I'm not saying it right, I mean, says BLM has issued a statement of support. I'm assuming he means on the Smolliet case.
Oh, really?
No surprise there.
Oh.
I've seen a few people come out and support. I was going to interject that earlier, but I didn't. It wasn't enough for me to really bring it up at that time. But there have been a few out there like, this is an outrage and this is da 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 da. And it's like, really?
No, it's not well, I understand they have an opinion, but for me, it's not an outrage. It's not quite what I would consider anything to be outraged about, considering that it's been proven to be untrue.
Exactly.
So, I guess it's from the point of view that the person is looking at it, but
cognitive dissonance. I don't know if that's what you call it, but yeah.
I'm not quite sure what it,
denial for sure.
Denial perhaps might be the more accurate. I think from my point of view, I'd say it's denial.
Yeah, I think so. And then with that, we are wrapped up around that end. So let's come back to what we have here at the latter part here. Thank you so much, guys, for your patience. And I do believe we hit every super chat before the ones we got now. So if you feel like we missed one of yours earlier, please let me know. But I do believe we covered them all. Giggle and Bits says, Biscuits from Life, Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy was a great character in Heartbreaking. Oh, yeah, Biscuit. Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, there's some great ones. Yeah. We got some. I see you guys are throwing some up in the chat. And then we got Duroan, who sent us a sticker for $1.49. Or I mean, €1.49. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's fancy money. And then I know we had at least another super chat or two. Master Clockwork says Netflix Avatar to Cowboy Bebop. Hold my beer.
Yes, that whole debacle with having the originators of the Avatar series supposedly working with Netflix, and then their terrible disappointment in the fact that it wasn't going the way they were hoping for. And correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, they walked away from the project, right?
I believe so, from what I remember here. Yeah, I don't remember everything about it, but now that you mention it, it does sound about right to me. Yeah. And I mean, didn't some of the creator of Cowboy Bebop didn't sound too happy. So
yeah, it's unfortunate that happened. And, that's just how it is. But I also thought about Avatar and how excited that was. A very popular anime or animated series, whatever. I don't know where it was created, but it was so popular. And for the creators to imagine being the creator and having to walk away because that they're not quite producing something that's up to the value of the IP that you've created. That has to be a blow.
Yeah. And then Snail Messiah says, please go watch Mystic Quest. Season 2 mauls the woke idea, not the people. It is simply an amazing show. Which stream did Andre get drunk on? Oh, that would be our Motu Part 1.
That was in July, right?
Yeah, that was back when they dropped the first half of Masters of the Universe Revelations. I would imagine it's up on the live streamer, the live archive, where you can find it through the playlist. If one of our mods can find that for us too, that would help. If not, but that would be the one we were talking about. Tennille89 says Filoni is kind of regarded as Lucas' protege, though. I respect your opinion about Filoni, Tom, though I've never understood it, if I'm honest. It's basically this. Look, I get it. I believe he's good for Star Wars as far as unless it involves one of his characters, like has been known to elevate a lot of his characters. Ahsoka is a prime example. If it does well for his character, he's all on board, no matter what it does to the mythos. But I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But I've just heard enough from behind the scenes that he's kind of I hate using the term snake or rat, but I'm just not so sure. I hope he's what he presents himself as, and I hope he's a true fan, and that does eventually come through. And but again, when it comes to his characters, is usually where I see his bias. But that's just
well. You're probably right on that, Tom. I'm certainly not going to say that's incorrect.
Right.
But I think between Favreau and Filoni together,
Yeah.
they balance out one another, and we do see that they really do respect what the fans have to say, and they respect the material. They understand that there is a catalog that is immense, and they want to enhance their shows by using some of the information in the catalog. Now, honestly, it's not 100%. Like you said, Ahsoka is a new character. If we must be truthful about it, she was not created by Lucas. I think she was created by Filoni,
Dave
right?
Filoni, yep.
So, but a character nonetheless that I feel fits in very well to the universe.
Right, and it's totally fair. I hope he has our best interest at heart, but I'm not so sure sometimes. Then Jesus Davila sent us a super sticker. Thank you for that. Then MJ Media is in the house. He says, "Screw Hollywood. Give us male and female gays."
Yes.
Please. And then Mark's man of 117B says, "No Sunrise throwaway a live action for anime." I think he's saying they did throw away the live action for anime.
They did. Is he talking about the fact that there was that, and we're talking about Cowboy Bebop, right, Tom?
I'm not 100% sure because I'm not up on the anime stuff.
I think I'm not quite sure. I know that when we were talking
at Sunrise Studios, or
yeah, there was this getting to, in regards to Cowboy Bebop, there was an article that said very specifically that the anime had the wrong ending, and that it messed things up for the characters, and it was wrong. And it was a very strange comment to make, considering the anime came first, and that maybe the live action had a better ending for Julia, I think was the character. It's very strange, Tom. But that's exactly the type of stuff we keep seeing, where they want to fix things, or
yeah.
The other thing that I'm not that fond of, that what we see a lot, is when they give a character credit, but there was no reason to give them credit for something. For example, we saw that in the second part of Masters of the Universe Revelations, where the Tila character gives Andra credit for something, and she actually says, well, if Andra hadn't come along with the group, then Adam wouldn't be here, or he wouldn't be alive. And I think to myself, I'm like, this is just unrealistic to even make that kind of comment. It was a group effort.
Yeah, I don't see the connection.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it really. But they did the same thing in Discovery when
yes, Michael
they
Burnham every other episode, but or every episode.
Michael, if she hadn't been around, Spock wouldn't be the person that he is.
Yeah,
and I thought to myself, yeah, I don't know. That's not really how you write stories in a sense, but at least not good writing, in my opinion. But
all right, and then I believe this is one we'll catch up on here and double check and make sure we didn't get any more since then. Mm-hmm. But we're looking good. So with this, I think this will be our last super chat. Unless the mods caught any that we didn't.
Yes.
Let us know in my private chat thingy. Tennille says, insert Sonic Chew Chris Chan joke here. Oh, I don't know about that. Alrighty. So with that, let's wrap this up.
All right.
I want to thank you, Rrrr, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
Yes, thank you for being here. I want to thank Cameron, of course, as well. Mm-hmm. And you can check out Cameron's Patreon for all his good stuff. You have your own channel, and you're on the Burr Network as well. And I believe those links should be in the description. Was there anything that you wanted to plug before we grab this last super chat?
Just please check out my channel, Positive Fandom, where I do movie reviews and all our great science fiction, fantasy, and horror reviews that we love. And just that I will be on Midnight Metal tonight on the Burr Network.
Awesome. And with that, we got one from Paulus Plain here, who says, Ellen Page has sexy tomboy quality. Elliot Page has no sexy quality as we know of. Am I wrong, community? Well, that's a good question.
I think that I haven't seen enough of Elliot Page. I haven't seen enough to make a determination.
Are you trying to say
there's-
without saying it, you wonder if they have the equipment still or if they added some things?
No, not quite. But
Okay, I was just curious.
I think that Ellen Page did have some kind of sex appeal. And I think that was kind of obvious. She's a nice screen presence in a lot of films that she was in, and especially the Amistad Maupin's Further Tales of the City. I really liked her in that one. Now, I don't know. I haven't really seen Elliot Page in anything to make this determination. How about you, Tom?
I've seen her in enough stuff that I liked her better before. I felt she had a very nice, even though when she came out, said she was lesbian or whatever, I wasn't surprised. But that's kind of the quality she had, was that when I say like the nice girl next door, but she's a lesbian kind of thing. Like, if that makes sense. She's very approachable. Like a guy wouldn't be like totally like turned off by her if she's like, I'm sorry, I'm not straight, and he'd be like, oh shit, okay, cool, like kind of thing. She's
Yes.
she seemed like that kind of a girl back then, but now with a lot of the politics behind everything and the way it's presented, I'm not so sure going forward.
She was her character, and like I said, she was at the time she was depicting, she was still Ellen when she was in, I think, the Further Tales of the City by Amistad Maupin, and that was she was hot in that. I liked that one a lot. So yeah, she definitely has sex appeal, and let's see how her Elliot Page situation turns out. Let's see if we see some more sex appeal from her. Let's see if you never know. So let's see.
I'm not so sure this non-binary thing is going to appeal to enough people for it to be a big deal. I really am not. I mean, especially when we're still getting like, Henry Cavill's and
yes. And Jason
Jason Momoa's. I mean, as popular as they are, and even The Rock.
Yes.
I have a hard time believing that. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't a place. I'm not saying there isn't.
Mm-hmm.
But just on that level of, even women worship, as far as like, look at even like Loki, the guy who plays Tom Hiddleston.
Yes,
like,
I love him.
He even has quite a female following, right?
He is great. I love him. I think he's very attractive and he's wonderful.
Yeah, but that's that bad boy image he has, right? Like that's totally what it is. It's now imagine if he comes out and goes, "Well, I'm sorry, I'm non-binary," and he acted, like that in the screen, and from them going forward, I don't know if the women would really be attracted to that. That doesn't mean he wouldn't even still be with them, because he said I'm just non-binary. But I think that at that moment, I think there's some women who would just be like, "Yeah, no."
Well,
I don't know.
You had us at Cavill, so
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like Henry Cavill, he just is like, oh man, you're just like,
yes.
You hear that, and the women just go.
Tom, someone recently asked me if I could meet any Hollywood celebrity, who would it be and why? And I kind of like just looked. I thought to myself, I'm like, yeah, it would be Cavill. I would want to have dinner with him or something. Just be able. I mean, I think he's extraordinary. I think he's just great in everything he
Henry
does.
Cavill's the kind of guy that even men can look at and go, yeah, I understand why women find him attractive, because I wish I looked like him, right? Like he's the kind of quintessential guy that most guys wish they looked like, right? Like it's just plain and simple. But with that, I think we're going to wrap this up. Thank you, Arden, for your help today. Appreciate it. And of course, Cameron as well. And Andre for not making it back here. Shame on him. No, I'm just kidding. He had stuff to deal with, family
right.
stuff to deal with. So send him some love in the comments, and we'll definitely try to get that question off to Cameron as well from earlier. So take care, everybody. And until next time, it's actually raining outside, so it's almost proper that we're doing
koalas in the rain,
koalas.
Tom?
Yeah, it just started raining. It's weird. Koalas in the rain.
Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given. Koala, koala. Koalas in the rain. Koalas in the rain. No fucks given. Koala.